wounds that never heal. Minds on the edge, feel the raw deal. Chaos in the ring, sweat dripping rain. Tear down the walls, feel the unchained pain. WrestleManiacs attack, no turning back. WrestleManiacs attack under the blood moon. WrestleManiacs attack, no turning back. WrestleManiacs attack under the blood moon.
What is up, everybody? Trying a little something different here. WrestleManiacs are back.
Oh, it's the biggest party of the summer, baby. Can you feel the Tonight was a match made in heaven, and
Yeah,
you gotta get me on that one.
was.
What you gotta get me with that one. It's a match made in heaven, and what?
The match made in heaven. When nuptials turn to napalm. That's right.
So, we do have some maniacs in the backstage. Y'all are familiar with, he's not surrounded by his movies for the very first time ever. He's on location, flashback weekend. Our boy, Stuntman Mark. What's going
Yeah,
on?
he
Man?
is
up,
in
guys?
the luxury suite. They put him up at flashback weekend. I love it, man.
They
That's how you
did.
roll
They were
around.
generous. They were generous
Hell
enough
yeah.
to put me up. So
You got one of those
I'm grateful.
bidets in the toilet that wash your ass off or whatever. That's when you know. Yeah, you're
Right.
a baller and shot caller. You got the ass squirters. But welcome, man. And also, one of my longtime friends that was on the original wrestling podcast that we ever did, probably 13 years ago at this point. The man they call Crater is in the house.
Come on, guys.
What's up, dude? So, everybody checked out the show tonight, SummerSlam, the 37th annual. They said that. I was like, God damn, well, I'm old. I'm old. I can.
I feel you, dude.
I remember the very first SummerSlam. I can still remember like them hopping it and everything.
Which was
What
the
year
first
was
one? Was it
it?
88?
88.
Okay.
With Macho
Looking
Hogan, and then 88 I saw, but it was like I went backwards and back in time. I think I rented it, but I think the first one I ever saw, I'm pretty sure was 89 with Zeus
Wow.
and Beefer and all them when they were feuding. Because I remember when I started watching it, I didn't realize Zeus was an actor. I like thought he was a wrestler. So then when he like started acting in like Friday and stuff, I was like, wow, Zeus is now an actor. Like I was all flipped. Like I didn't know what was going on because when I started wrestling, Zeus was already there. So
Right.
that's why I always just assumed he was like some badass wrestler.
My favorite one, though, I want to solo so you guys can see it a little bit better without me grabbing it. SummerSlam 90 back there.
Mhm.
That's the tape. There it is. There it is. That's, man, I'm surprised that thing still works as much as I watched that back in the day. Like, that was my favorite. The whole thing with, Dusty Rhodes looking for Sweet Sapphire. Hey, Hacksaw! You think Sweet Sapphire, baby?
Yeah, it's like
Yeah, I'm pretty sure
oh,
that's that SummerSlam 1990. That's the first SummerSlam I remember seeing because that was 1990 was pretty much the year I started becoming a like hardcore, consistent wrestling fan. I mean, the first match I remember was in that same year. Was Sting and Ric Flair, Great American Bash. So that was the reason I became a wrestling fan.
I love
very-
hearing these memories, man.
Very
Really
impressionable time period for me, too. 10 years old. SummerSlam 1990. And then SummerSlam the next year, of course, Garrett, we were talking about a little bit earlier, the match made in heaven. And the match
Oh my God. Do you know what's crazy? And I don't know if you guys are the same way or anybody in the chat, but like with that point in time, like I can tell you where so 88 was the first one I remember watching. No, 89. I was at my friend Tommy's house down the street. then 1990, I was at my friend Andrew's house down the street, and we watched that. And I remember how funny we thought it was when like Rude's pants got pulled down by like Warrior, like in the cage. We thought it was like the funniest thing ever.
Hell yeah,
Because
man.
like at that time, I was only like 8 years old or 9 at that point in time, and you know, we were little kids, and it was so weird because we were so used to Hogan, and then Warrior got the transition. So it was a kind of a weird event because you had like that huge feud with Hogan and Earthquake that was like built for so long, and it was kind of stuck in the middle of the show. And then you had that kind of weird finish. And then 91, I was back at my friend Tommy's, who I was over for 89. So watching the Match Made in Heaven, Match Made in Hell. So it's so crazy, like how much those couple of years are embedded in my brain. I knew exactly what it was. Like I can still picture being there watching it. Like right now, it's wild.
I'm curious how they did SummerSlam 92, because that was the one that was in England.
Yeah.
They couldn't have done that live on pay-per-view over here, right? So they had to maybe do it on like a tape delay or something.
I don't know. That's a good question.
Yeah, I don't remember if I saw it live at all. I don't have any recollection of watching it live on 92.
Me neither.
What's funny though is there's 37 SummerSlams, and probably maybe the first 10, I could at least name you a couple matches on each of the shows. But after that, it all kind of, I don't know, it kind of blends together for me.
Yeah.
Even like last year, I couldn't tell you what the hell happened on last year's SummerSlam. But we're going to talk about this year's SummerSlam. Lots of stuff went on. We got a lot of people in the chat as well. I guess we'll go through there real quick, and then we'll give a little rundown and thoughts and opinions on the show. Brian Sanchez is in the house. Justin Smith, he says it's a really great SummerSlam. The Gory Tiger says, what is up? What's going on? The Hapty Optimist, formerly the Infinite Character. Everybody knows him now.
Damn, that's Dr. Doom.
Emotionless Zombie, rated SummerSlam 8 out of 10. Roman is back. Sam is giving the thumbs down to Gunter, which I don't know, I kind of like Gunter. I'm happy about that.
He deserves it, buddy.
Yeah, it's his time, man.
Yeah.
The Horror Fanatic 81, Foz Rotten is in here. Alan Smithy's Ghost. Vanderhoff, what is going on? He says, I hate wrestling, but I wanted to come in and hit the like button. That's right.
That's awesome.
You need
Those legs, baby.
Nah.
It's time. It's time. It's crazy time.
I love that.
Are you
Speaking of that,
saying
wait a minute. Is this the first time I've ever been on a show with you, Crater, or did we do a roundtable at one point?
I think we did a round table before on
All right.
something or another. I don't know.
All
my memory's shot, bro.
I definitely can't remember.
I don't know.
Got a super chat real quick here, and then we'll get started because there's a lot to talk about. $5 super chat. We're going to talk about Jelly Roll tonight, boys. I'm excited. Wants to know if we think and appreciate the super chat. If Jelly Roll has diabetes, does he have diabetes? Does he check his blood sugar?
There may
Do
be
you
a
check it off?
possibility there. I don't know. I can't say.
Probably possible, yeah.
Dude, like he had a hard time getting up, like actually getting up from that
Hey,
5-knuckle show.
Yeah, they had to
Yeah.
get
that
pick
choke
him up.
slam was dope, though.
Well, dude, like
Yeah,
that.
we could talk about Jelly Roll because he opened the show, right? So like we can
Yeah.
kind of touch on that because
Right.
I'm gonna be honest, I don't really like I know of him, but I don't really know him. Like he's not anybody that I'm familiar enough with to know any songs or anything like
I mean,
that.
he's really, really popular right now, though. I mean,
Yeah.
there's no doubt.
I
Like,
don't know if you watch Theo Vaughn's podcast or not, but he talks about Jelly Roll on there. It's funny shit, man.
I mean, I listened to him at the beginning and I was like, okay, this is definitely not my cup of tea with music. Like I wasn't impressed at all. I actually found I went to Limp Bizkit the other day and I was like, well, Corey Feldman actually sounded better than Jelly Roll did. So it wasn't really my jam.
Do you think the Corey
Right.
Feldman thing is a parody? I mean, I'm the
I
Don't worry,
I
I have a video coming out about that this on Monday. So
Yeah,
be
me
ready.
and Candace have talked about that several times. And
Yeah.
I think if it is, that's fucking genius.
I mean,
You know,
it's got to be.
Listen, here's the way I'm going to work it is that like a lot of these people that are doing this and picking on them and all this stuff, if you dial it back like and look at it from a wrestler's mindset, like you said, there could be something here. If you don't understand that side of like thinking or kayfabe or anything in that realm, then
he's an
he comes off
actor.
a little bit weird, right? So I think that's where I'm going to try to take this, is to try to talk about it and be like, you know, this could possibly all be a complete work, and then everybody else who's taking
Well, I
it
hope
100%
it is.
serious is getting worked hard
Hope
and
the fuck it
real
is.
hard. So I mean, that's kind of where I'm taking this angle with this, because honestly, like, I saw him the other day, and sure, his music isn't great, but he was fine. Like, it sounded fine. It was fine. Like, I also too, and I'm sure you guys, some of you guys had possibly known, but I mean, like, you know, I spent a lot of time in like these old shitty rock clubs watching these bands trying to make it, like, for years. So like when you see Corey Feldman, you're like, it's not anything I'm not used to seeing before. Like, this is just, you know, like, it's not mind blowing that someone like, you know, the guitarist isn't that great or the songs aren't that great. Like, that's kind of what you see when you're kind of up and coming. But I don't know. I think he was fine when I saw him. I don't see what the issue is. Sometimes when I'm seeing these videos that are up close, I'm like, is it because they're so close? But like half the time you don't even hear the band. Like, I'm like, did they like splice the band out? Because there was never a point in time where he's just like playing by himself and nobody's doing anything. Like, at least when I was there. So I don't know if like anybody's messing with the audio when they're like posting these clips. Cause I'm like, you don't even, you know, when they used to do those Creed things where you'd hear like just the guy, whatever they showed that you're like, that's what you heard. What would they call that? Where like show the guitars and you hear like bring, bring, and then they show the singer and you just hear his voice. Like, that's what I feel like a lot of these videos look like to me. And I'm like, there's no point where I saw him with like he was the only one doing stuff and the band was just sitting there. But I don't know. That's a whole nother story. But yeah, Jelly Roll, like, I guess he's got a pretty big backstory. Like, did he start it with like kind of in like an ICP realm or something? Where did this guy come from?
He
was an underground rapper, right?
He was on the underground scene. I've seen a lot of his like Memphis underground rap stuff for like years and years, and I guess he was slightly successful, but not to the point where he is now. I mean, hell, he's on fucking SummerSlam. Like, you know what I mean? Performing in the ring, if you call it a performance. So yeah, he's come a long way.
But yeah, he performed along with the choir, God Bless America, and man, like Jelly Roll, as far as his singing voice goes, the only person I think I can compare him to, and again, he'll probably roll over in his grave, but Percy Sledge, boys. He's got that Percy Sledge top twang in his voice. So I think he's channeling some old school Percy Sledge. But anyway, Triple H came out, and he, of course, asked Cleveland if they're ready. And then, like, I guess Jelly Roll was preparing for his other performance with his band. And I was hoping the whole time that drummer would just fall off of that stage.
He wasn't doing much of any drumming.
There's a stage in the ring. What'd you guys think of the whole setup for like the way that they set the arena up and everything?
The entranceway and everything, and how like it kind of like snakes around. I appreciated the entranceway of it. I thought it looked really well put together. I thought the whole production on this whole show was fucking great. But man, those big long snake entranceways, man, I think that ain't gonna last too long if they keep doing that, because you know those guys when they come out there, they don't want to walk that fucking far to the ring.
It's like Kevin Owens there towards the end. He started sprinting out there, and I was like, "Oh God, he's going to be fucking."
I noticed that. That's going to be a problem. I think.
I mean, that's what's hard too, because if you have something that's supposed to happen shockingly in the ring, and you pop his music on, like, that's a long window by the time he has to get down there. You know what I mean? So like, it's not really his fault. It's like they have to pipe in his music at this specific time, and then he's got to beeline to that ring before like. You know, they could have pinned Cody 3 times before he got down there, right? So like,
they were
problems. It's like,
all right, hurry up.
Yeah, they could have looked and they'd be like, "Owens is coming, good. He won't be here for a couple seconds. Let's go do this." Like, that's where I think it kind of gets a little wonky, because it just kind of goes against the story they're trying to tell. But I think you're right. I thought it looked fantastic. I actually think it looks so much better than when what's the guy's name there that they got rid of, the video guy,
Kevin Dunn.
Oh man, I feel like it's gotten so much better since Dunn left. Like, you don't get that freaking shaky thing all over the place. Like, you get these nice,
the
like,
constant zooms and all that stuff. Yeah,
yeah, I feel like it flows a hell of a lot better visually now. Than
with these big arena shows too. I mean, well, stadium shows, I guess. I think it's smart to try to fill the entire as many people as you can, and don't take up the room with the big stage. And
It's just more
shit.
aesthetically pleasing if you see
Mhm.
the whole arena or stadium or whatever, completely filled. And because if you see little gaps here and there, or like big, huge gaps like AEW, I mean, that's just, that's like, why are we even watching this? I mean, what's appealing about this if nobody's fucking coming to these shows? That's just
Right.
how I feel about it.
Yep.
No,
So
I agree.
anyway, kicking the show off, opening match, Liv Morgan, is the women's championship match with defeating Rhea Ripley. And we all kind of predicted this ending. I don't think anybody was too surprised by this. But they had a damn good match.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I'm glad. I think Liv actually deserves like a real program, because there's been so many people there forever that's really never had like any sort of, storyline or program or anything. And now it seems to be changing now. They're actually focusing a lot on storylines and stuff like that.
Yeah, she's definitely the most interesting that she's ever been on the roster. And you were talking about people that have come and gone. Like, there's so many people on the roster right now, at least in the women's division, that like they're just kind of there. And you see these people pop up, and then they have their match for like 5 minutes, they go away, and it's not enough to like make them stick or even get over with the audience, because they don't really give them anything. But I like what they're doing with Liv. It's been interesting for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel the same way. And what I like about, I think WWE is in a really good spot right now, and I think they've been in a good spot pretty much this whole year. And what they're doing different than I think everybody else, like even like AEW and all this stuff. And hey, this could just be circumstances that were out of the control, like a lot of these injuries and stuff. But man, tonight felt special, even though I saw a lot of people kind of shitting on the card, like it didn't feel like a big card. But I'm glad to see a lot of these different people getting the spotlight. I think that's good, because it's been so long that it's been like the same 4 people over and over again for years, where, now all of a sudden you got, Priest as champion, you've got Gunther as his opponent. A lot of people were kind of shitting on the fact that Solo was the guy going for the title. But like, you got to remember when Bret Hart was and Shawn Michaels were babyface champions back in the day, there was a lot of those feuds where they elevated somebody a little bit to have that match. And I think what they're going to do with Solo and his crew later, I feel like it's important that you make them feel as big and legit as possible. But when it comes back to Rhea and Liv, I think the same thing. Like with that injury, they were able to tell this story. Now it's become a long-term story with her and Rhea, with Liv and Rhea. And I think this story is still not over, which is huge for both of them. Because now, you're going to have that rematch. Now there's more meat on the bone with this storyline with the Dominic stuff. And I think it's great. And I think it's great for both of them. I think Rhea Ripley is probably my favorite thing in all of wrestling right now. But I think to further along this story they were trying to tell with Dom and stuff, I think that her losing was important. And I thought it was a really good match. And man, she had me fooled. I thought that arm was done. Like that arm looked out of place. Like, so either she knows how to like manipulate it to look like it's out of the socket, but I've seen shoulders out of the socket before, and I was like, it's 100% out of the socket. Like, I was so bummed out watching that, because I'm like, she's done. Like, she's back out now. And then all of a sudden, when they kind of like, she popped it and like jammed it into the table, I was like, holy shit, I think she can really just like do something to make it look like it's out of socket, because they would have never carried that match that long after that. But it had me fooled, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, and just like Garrett said, that she's talking about the storytelling aspect of this all. I mean, that's, you're going to see that's a common theme with me about every match we talk about here tonight, because the storytelling in these matches throughout this whole show have been the best storytelling I've seen in wrestling matches in probably 20 plus years. I mean, there's been a lot of good stuff like mixed in between those time periods, but I feel like this has been one of the best, like consistent, like good storytelling, eras of WWE. And it's just like I don't know if it's just like after they got rid of Kevin Dunn and Vince is gone, and just they just brought all these new people in to do the writing, but the writing here is like spot on for me at least. And just the stories about the Rhea popping her elbow out, like I was thinking that same thing. Garrett, like, does she just know how to do that? Is she like double jointed in some way where she can do like as a party trick or something? But I just thought that was very well, like, placed in that match to just kind of, because you watch wrestling so many times, and you as many matches as you've seen, you're not always going to see like a story presenting itself within that match. You're just going to basically just see, well, this is a wrestling match between so and so and so and so, and then you're not going to look at the deeper meaning behind it. But I felt like they did an excellent job tonight with all of these matches, telling the story within the match, bringing that story together before each match, and those promos they do where they just, tie everything together. I think it's just done like chef's kiss, man.
Yeah, and I just saw Wes pull this up, and I was going to pull this up too, is that I thought this was actually kind of a perfect statement. It's up Suspirian Night. He said, you don't like AEW's storytelling of I'm better than you, let's wrestle for an hour. And that's kind of, I think, what it is. Like, I will say this, like, they have a lot of good talent in AEW that can put on great matches, but if you're not invested in the match or the product, then it doesn't really matter at the end of the day, in my opinion. Like, I've been a lifelong wrestling fan, and like tonight, regardless of what the card was, when I look at this card as a whole, I feel like every match, I'm going to say maybe besides Bailey and Nia, just because I don't watch SmackDown a whole lot, so I didn't really see how that kind of came about. But everything else, I feel like there was so much meat on the bone with this matches that every match felt like a big big match. There was no matches that I was like, this one's kind of a throwaway. Like, everything was a big match, even going to, like, we'll talk about LA Knight Logan. Like, this all felt like an important pay-per-view, and that's what SummerSlam's supposed to be. And I think the only reason it feels that important is because they did all the work the last couple months to get us here. And I know injuries had a lot to do with making these matches have to wait a long time to happen, but hopefully they learned something about that. Like, use these big four and build, through the months and to get to what we're looking for. And
100%.
I think this Rhea Liv match was phenomenal. I think that last piece where he grabbed the chair, she hit her with the finishing move, that 1-2. I thought it was over. She kicked out, and I'm sitting there on the edge of my seat, like, what? Like, and it's not often that I feel like I get that way, like with it nowadays. You watch wrestling for 35 years of your life, and you feel like it does. You don't really get to that point, but the story was so good that when she kicked out, I'm like, oh my God, where is this going? And we ended up seeing how the end, but
that's some of the best stuff in there. Like, the storytelling for sure was top notch. You guys have said it a million times, but like, I'm loving every bit of it. I can't wait to see where it goes next, which is what you want. And that's definitely what AEW lacks. Like, it's a bunch of guys that are talented, but they're just doing moves. And you need a little bit more than that. I mean, that's part of the art of wrestling. You got to have some story. So, but I got to ask, where do you guys think the story's going with Liv and Rhea? Do you guys even want more of it? Like, how far do you think they can take this?
Oh, I think there's definitely more to it. I think, with, I know we'll get.
Yeah, I know. I want to say where it's going, but we'll talk about it later because there is, I think there's more pieces to this puzzle that happens on the show. And I know I saw somebody in the chat earlier say, like, they thought it was a great show, but they were kind of bummed about Judgment Day, which we'll get into because I love Judgment Day, and I'll talk about it later. But I'm not mad with how things turned out because I think that there's more here. So that's the only reason I'm cool with it. If it was just like, everybody goes their separate ways and half of them become jobbers, then I'd been pissed because they're a big part of the show, and it's good to see all these people, as a unit because it gives them all quality TV time and makes them all feel special, and they don't have to have singles matches or whatever throughout the show and just feel like they're just mid-card guys. And that's what I like about this gangs that they have in wrestling, because that's like even in the Attitude Era, like DOA and all these gangs, they felt special and they weren't, but because they were part of a group, they were able to kind of push them as a unit. And I think that really, really helped get people over. And Judgment Day are a huge part of the show, and it's not done. I just think we're going to see a new incarnation of it. So.
Well, I think we're going to see them actually kind of split, kind of like how they're doing the bloodline stuff too, because we're going to see like two different bloodline stables. I'm pretty sure in the near future.
Do you think you're going to see some real life play into it though? So while Rhea was off, she got married, right? They didn't bring that up at all in storyline.
Yeah, Dom's married too. He just got married recently.
Oh, I bet his
Yeah,
wife's
that's true.
loving the.
He's like, honey, I have this storyline. I'm going to be making
I
out
don't
these
care if Dom just got married or not. That son of a bitch was looking forward to that spot tonight.
Oh yeah.
dude. I don't know who loves him, but I mean, dude,
I
from
love
coming from
Dom.
what he was like when he first came out with Ray, and I was like, oh god, like he was a good worker, but I'm like, he doesn't have a
Yeah.
good look. Like I don't know what they're gonna do with this
Mhm.
guy. He's so Ella. Man,
Yeah.
Dominic Mysterio has like evolved into like one of the coolest guys on the roster, and it's one of those things that I think he'll always be a big name anywhere he goes, just based on what's happened to him these last couple of years. Like some of my favorite stuff from him is like that, you know, when he went to prison for a day, like that whole thing. And then he came out
That
with
was the best thing that could have happened.
He had
to
the
him.
teardrop tattoo after that.
dude,
Yeah.
like
He's like
I
a potato
love
chicken
that
nugget.
version
chicken
of Dom.
tenders.
Yeah, like I absolutely love that version of Dom, and I think that he's continuing to evolve and into a huge star. And this storyline that he's in is great. It reminds me basically of Eddie, you know, and it's so wild to kind of see like, you know, that he's in this spot. And the nice thing about Dom is he barely even has to wrestle, and he's a big name on the show, and he barely
Exactly.
even has matches.
And I love Dom, man, like because and I'm so happy that he's in the position he's in the company right now, because like Garrett said, you know, when he first started out doing, like, you know, he had the short hair and he was in the tag team with Ray. I was like, this guy's never going to be anything in the company. He's not going to. They're not going to push him. I mean, it's just, and he wasn't very good in the beginning, and he's not. I mean, you know, technically not very good now. Like Garrett said, he doesn't do a whole lot of
Right.
wrestling.
It's not about his in ring. It's just the personality and the character and
And-
everything.
Exactly. And I just love that word, you know, he's got like what they called X-Pac heat pretty much, you know, within this new era of the company. And he's like one of the top heels. And he's like what they call a chicken shit heel. And I love it. I mean, that's like classic, like old school wrestling, the chicken shit heels. And that's what they really got over in the fucking 80s and the NWA and all that stuff.
He's one of those guys for sure that like
love
it's all about who he's in the ring with. I mean, like that match that he had with Ray at Mania, that was one of his best matches in my
It really
opinion.
was.
Yeah, so I'm glad he's in the spot he's in. Like you said, like he's going up for sure. He's not staying stagnant. Doesn't seem like he's complacent at all. But we'll see where that Rhea Liv angle goes. I'm
excited.
really looking forward to that. Yeah, it's great.
It's going back to
Continuing on.
stories. Oh, sorry. But sorry.
Yeah, go
But
ahead.
I was saying,
sir.
going back to storylines, like we were talking about, and how it's so important, is Dominic Mysterio is a glorified star, and he doesn't really have to do much in the ring to be considered a star. And that's where story and character is so important, where it doesn't matter about 5-star matches, in my opinion, at the end of the day. Like, if you want to be a star, they've got to see you, recognize you, and he's so over, and it could be X-Pac heat or not. I mean, I've never seen anybody get booed the way that he's booed.
Oh, no,
And it's
not
so
at all.
comedic to a point. But when he had like a title that was like an NXT title for a while, and he used to go on NXT and like defend it. They said when he went to NXT and would defend that title, his match would get better ratings than like the whole AEW show. So why, like, that's so crazy. Like, he goes to NXT as a match and he's outdoing like every segment on AEW alone. Like, so people love to hate him but they watch him, right?
They react. That's what you want. You want a reaction.
And him tonight when he's leaving with Liv and he's flipping the whole crowd off with the middle finger, I was like, all right, this is nice.
should
This is
have.
fun.
I was saying right before that, I was like, he needs to flip Rhea off, right? But they didn't go that far. So
He flipped the crowd off.
he flipped the crowd off, but I would have flipped Rhea off first. Like, I think that would have. You could see her, you know, you could kind of see it in her eyes already. But yeah,
she's gonna beat the fuck out of him first chance she gets.
Well, you know, there's probably going to end up being a Rhea versus Dom match at some point. After she's done with
Probably.
Liv, I'm sure it's going to be a Rhea versus Dom.
So immediately after this match, though, pissed off Damian Priest busts into their hideout, right? And was like, "Did you son of a bitches know about this or whatever?" He gets face to face with Finn Balor, and that kind of comes into play a little bit later on.
Oh yeah,
on the show. Next matchup, though, Braun Breaker defeated Sami Zayn to win the Intercontinental Championship. This is a short match, 5 minutes. Good enough match, man. Braun Breaker, he looked really orange tonight, but man, he's a natural. Holy shit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's awesome.
What is he, 23 years old, 24 years old,
Something like that, yeah.
Wow. So yes, definitely future world champion. I really just wish that they would have called him Braun Steiner though, man. Like
Yeah.
he's one of the Steiners.
Was it originally it was supposed to be Rex Steiner?
That's what I think it was going to be,
I
Rex
think
Steiner.
It was Rex Steiner, but then it was like, no, let's go with Braun Breaker.
But now they're recognizing him as a Steiner because they brought it up when he was coming out. They said, "Oh, the last time a Steiner was at SummerSlam was 1993 or whatever." And then they showed the Steiner brothers in the skybox watching the match, which I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And yeah, you're right. Like, he's a freaking glorified star. And I think there was the right decision was to get that belt on him now. He couldn't lose to Sammy again. He needed to destroy Sammy. Sammy's going to go on and do other things. He's fine. This needed to be for Braun now. And like I said before, it's great to finally see WWE pushing different names and building new stars instead of being the worst thing they ever did was have Cena the star and then everybody else feel like mid-carders where they were trading wins and losses, because when Cena was out, they had nobody that felt that big. Where at least back in the Attitude Era, Triple H gets hurt, you got Rock, Austin Foley, like all these people that felt like they could just slide them right in, and the show never took a dive. Where now, like, let's build all these people up so you have 10 main eventers. So, if anything happens, you can easily just maneuver. Like tonight, what was so cool about tonight? It was there could have been so many different main events. You could have relived the main event. You could have Cody'd the main event. You could have easily drew the main event. Like, I mean, there were so many spots that you're like, this could be the main event. And it's been a long time since I think they've been to a place where like you had that opportunity to have people at that level. And I'm glad they gave it to Braun because I think he is somebody that's a future champion. And he's pretty damn good when Goldberg publicly puts him over. Goldberg doesn't put anybody over. And he just did an interview and they asked him about him. He goes, that kid's got something. And you never hear Goldberg give props to anybody. So
he got the Goldberg tattoo on his arm.
That's probably part of it. Yeah, it has something to do with it.
So I don't know, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, and Sami Zayn, man, is like always going to be that underdog character. And I don't know if anybody in wrestling, in the history of wrestling, has ever played the underdog character better than him. Like, he gets beat, like he always loses, literally. Like this championship run that he had, it's the longest winning streak in his whole WWE career, probably, because he loses like every match.
Yeah, I normally, before if I had first heard about like that they were going to do Sami Zayn that way, like the ultimate underdog type deal, back before they did it, I would think, there's no way, people's going to get behind that. It's like, and I thought one of the best underdog stories was with Daniel Bryan back in the whole Yes movement stuff. Especially going into WrestleMania 30, which I'm kind of biased because I was at WrestleMania 30 to see him win the championship and all that.
That's awesome.
I would have thought, no, there's no way they're going to put Sammy, in that position. It'd be better than Daniel Bryan's. I think it is. I think this is the thing with Sammy, this ultimate underdog stuff that they did with him for the past several months, leading back all the way to when he was in the Bloodline stuff. I think it's genius. I think it's very well written.
I think looking back, he should have been the one that beat Roman. Like I agree. That story was hotter than, and everybody loves Cody. I mean, Cody, of course, but I think the storyline at the time, they were onto something organic that wasn't planned, and they should have just went with it.
Yeah.
But anyway, Stephanie McMahon was there, Bull. She looked like she was really into it. I was telling a buddy of mine, literally, she probably just sat down in that chair when they started.
That's very possible. Whenever I see Stephanie McMahon on TV after the whole thing that she did with Chris Jericho years ago, where he would call her a dirty, filthy, disgusting hose beast of a slut, and so every time I see her,
whatever he said,
that's the first thing I always think of.
I always think when Triple H said, even a 747 looks small driving it, flying through the Grand Canyon. Yeah, that was a good one. I was thinking that.
Stephanie was clapping like a seal. Yeah.
Still looks
All right.
great though. Stephanie still looks
I
great.
have no idea what's going on.
The next match, though, the LA Knight Logan Paul match. And I said before this match to my wife, I was like, if LA Knight does not win this match, he's totally done. Because they have done everything imaginable to, like, this guy was hot. Like, at one time, he was like one of the hottest acts that they had, probably, what, 6 or 8 months ago, or whatever it was. And they just completely cooled him off since then. But yeah, I mean, thankfully, of course, he did win. I think Logan Paul, you know, this U.S. Championship match is probably moving on to a bigger, like maybe more of a main event level or something, because it's another guy. I wanted to hate him so much, but he's another one that's a natural. Like he just, I don't know, you can't teach that, right? Somebody said that one time.
Yeah, for sure.
I used to say that, but you know, I mean that match. Okay, so like I admittedly say when I saw Logan Paul coming into wrestling, I'm like, oh god, this is just another one of these like celebrity stunt thing. Like when they had Snooki or Snoop Dogg does his stuff. I thought the same thing they were going to do with Logan Paul, and that was going to be it. But I'll tell you, man, like I'm highly impressed with that guy, with how he has owned his skills in the ring so quickly. And I mean, I don't even think the guy's had 20 matches since he started. But
no, probably not.
He
Probably
is
less than
better.
10, I bet. I bet it's still less than 10.
He is probably more talented than 75% of the entire roster. I mean, that match tonight between him and LA Knight, I almost said LA Beast.
That's the next one. That's coming up.
Him and LA Knight. I mean, it was great. I mean, that springboard moonsault that Logan Paul does on the outside of the ring, fucking blew my mind how good that was. I mean, he could have easily fucked that up and killed himself.
Mm-hmm. I have to agree as well. I when he came in, I knew who they were. I don't follow a lot of that modern stuff, current stuff. So I was like, here we go with this guy, and he's impressed me. I think he's great. I think he's good for the company in certain ways because he loves it. You can tell he takes it serious. That guy goes on like red carpets and goes to UFC fights. Wherever he is, he's got that belt with him. I mean, that's huge for WWE to have somebody of his, level.
Rambo's not a fan.
Well, I mean that brings that much like pride into the business from somebody who was not part of the business, right? So I think it's just it's cool because I mean that guy, he's fine. He doesn't need WWE. If he never went wrestle in WWE again, he'd be perfectly fine. He's got enough money. He's got a freaking podcast that kills it. I mean, he's got that energy drink or whatever Prime that's killing it. Like he doesn't need to be there, but the fact that he's there and performs the way he does and, totes around the belt like it's a flag, for the company. I mean, how can you, as a wrestling fan or somebody who works for the company, how can you not be impressed with this guy at this point?
Yeah, I was not a fan of him before all this. Like I said, and Rambo, I mean, I probably felt the same way at one point, like you, Rambo. But like when I started watching, I really could see the appreciation that he had for wrestling. As the amount of work that he was putting in, the time. And it was very respectful. When you see somebody going to that, going that far to try to just make the product better. And Logan Paul, I mean, I tell you, he's like a natural heel. I think he does stuff because he's aware that he's hated by so many out there. So he does stuff it's so funny to me, at least. Like he's coming out there tonight in gear that was Cleveland Browns inspired. And he's like, I know these people fucking hate me. So I'm going to make these people boo something that is Cleveland Browns related. And they do. And then he goes one step further and brings out fucking Machine Gun Kelly, who is also like universally hated by people. He's like, we're going to get the most amount of boos that we can in SummerSlam history. And that motherfucker accomplished it, if you ask me.
Yeah, every show, like I don't even know if that stuff is his idea or Triple H or whatever, but like, man, every show he goes out of his way to get more and more heat, and it works. I mean, he clearly likes the business to a degree. Like, he doesn't have to do it. It's not about the money. He's got the natural talent. I'm so glad they turned him back when they did, because bringing him in as a face was just the worst decision
Yeah,
ever.
that was death. That was quick death right there.
Yeah.
So,
But
I mean, he's great, though. I mean, you guys think, and I mean, people, politics and stuff. He posted some shit on Twitter about shit he probably, I don't care. But, I mean,
that's the thing. I don't give a shit what anybody's views are. I really don't. I could care less about people agreeing, disagreeing. That stuff doesn't bother me. Like, if all of us in this panel right now had different opinions on things, if everybody's cool with each other, I'm cool. Like, it doesn't, that shit doesn't matter to me. So, people were pissed about things that he posted. That's on him. I mean, that's not going to make me be like,
right.
oh, I don't even want to watch him wrestle anymore. Like, it's just a waste of my time to
like,
get worried about what he does. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, but I mean, as a performer, I think he's great, and I think that LA Knight needed this. He needed that belt. He needed that belt at Mania. This should have been Mania, in my opinion, because like you said, he was so hot at Mania that you could have thrown him in that main event, and he would have been over. But you had to give him this belt because he needs to evolve, because like he was getting cooled down because they didn't know what to do with him. So him get with this US title is they need this to see how this dude is with a title. And is there a possibility that he gets further down the road with a world championship? I don't know. But, this is a good, stepping stone to kind of see how he handles being a champion. But LA Knight is another guy that I think is important to the company because
he's also 42 years old. Too,
right.
So
that's the problem is they get a lot of these guys that are aging out.
Yeah.
But he still feels like a rookie because they just got him, right? So I'm going to say let's milk what we can with LA Knight because he's got an it factor that you just don't see on a regular basis.
Yeah,
so I mean, he's 42 years old. Seeing him out there, it feels different. It feels new.
They had an excellent match with one another, though. I felt like it was probably a top contender for match of the night. That just the ending of that match was just beautiful. I mean, because the transition into that BFT that he did, like when Logan Paul comes off on that springboard, I was like, man, that was timed so well. I mean, because they could have easily fucked that up, but it was just, I mean, it transitioned like that, and I was like, damn, that's good.
Well, thankfully he did get the title because, like Garrett mentioned, he was losing steam, man. I mean, they should have done it in Mania, but I mean, this loss obviously did not hurt Logan Paul. He'll still be just as over and just as hated no matter what. So it did a lot for LA Knight. I'm glad he got it.
Me too.
The one thing that I wanted to note on here, because they do a lot of these sponsored product placement type backstage skits for the shit, but this one was fucking amazing. Like, I popped harder than anything in that night, the whole night with the Manscaped thing.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that was crazy. I was like, I love stupid shit like that in wrestling.
Yeah, which it was Baron Corbin, Apollo Crews, Otis, Maxine Dupree, and Akira Tozawa. And just showing the whole spread there, the Manscaped razors and everything. And Otis grabs like the head shave or something like that, and then pulls his strap down. And just the way that they shot it and shit.
Because they're trying to get risque again, I think, and kind of to give a preview of what we're going to get once WWE goes to Netflix. Because I feel like it's going to be a little bit more uncensored once it goes to Netflix. So you get little like innuendo jokes, I think, right now, like that with Otis. Like you think he's going to go down and like shave his balls. He takes it to his belly instead.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But what's nice about that too is like, I think because WWE's doing such a good job with storylines and all this stuff, like even someone like Otis and that little group right there that are technically like lower mid-carders, if lower card guys, they still feel like important characters to the show because of the way that they're working them into storylines with like Gable and all that stuff. And it's nice to see that again, like that. I feel like we haven't seen that since Attitude Era where like everybody has a place, even if they're not necessarily the main event. And that's what I always appreciate. That's what I'm appreciating more now about what they're doing. Like it was a great segment with them and they feel important parts of the show, but we know that they're not big names in the company, but they feel important because of how they've been building them up.
Yeah, and I was going to say that same exact thing, Garrett, about like it is very reminiscent of the Attitude Era where every guy they had on the show had a place and a story, and it seemed like they were all important. And I feel like a lot of people that will make comments like, well, the Attitude Era was overrated. It's like, it's not as great as you remember it. I'm like, I can only believe that if someone says that they didn't actually experience the Attitude Era when it was
I've
happening.
rewatched it at least 2 or 3 times in its entirety because like I have my own personal library of that stuff. So everything that I do have is like fully unedited and all that. It was the
Yeah.
original stuff that did air back in the late '90s, and I can say without a doubt it is as good as you remember. Of course,
Oh, yeah.
every point and period in wrestling has like its bad stuff, but this era is still pure as it always it was. I mean, it's so great. Like people need to go back and watch it again. It actually is really really good. The storylines and stuff.
It's an
Yeah.
influence so many different storylines going forward past the Attitude, because Attitude
Exactly.
Era was like 97 to 2001 was Attitude Era before they transitioned in like Ruthless Aggression and all that shit.
Right.
But look at how many storylines since the Attitude Era has been similar to Attitude Era storylines because they knew that's what worked. That's what made them the most money for the company at the time. I mean, so like if you're why change something if it's not broken? So as they say, but that's like anybody.
I think what it is too is that I think people now are so infatuated with the quality of the matches. So when you do go back in Attitude Era, I mean, you can look back and say, okay, you're not getting like 5-star Osprey matches here, but like you said, everybody was over. Everybody felt like a star. They did what they needed to do to make the matches work. They didn't necessarily have to be these 5-star, barn burners, but you got good quality matches in there. Like, you had your Shamrock and Michaels, but the matches were just different. And I think that's where people are overlooking is they're saying, yeah, they weren't all these memorable 5-star matches with these high spots. There wasn't. There was, you had those big matches that you remember, but I remember going to watch an Attitude Era house show or whatever, and it's like, Rikishi comes out and he's getting ovations like he's the freaking Rock. You got like a mid card of like the Godfather coming out getting his reactions like he's Stone Cold Steve. Like everybody was over regardless of where they were on the card, and you just don't see that anymore.
And the showmanship too was like just on another level. It was something in the air back then. I mean, pretty much everybody in the audience is standing. Nobody's really like just taking a seat like how it is now for certain matches. Like everybody felt important. Like it was really great era.
And I always mention this too because they always talk about how hot WCW was whenever the NWO, and they were for probably a solid year. I would give them at least a year. They were really hot from like 96 to the middle of 97.
Oh, 97 was huge for the NWO.
But in the summer of 97, when they started with the whole Hart Foundation, turning heel and everything, WWF was already a better show at that point, in my opinion. But it just took, as far as the ratings to catch up, it took about another, year or so before everybody else kind of caught up to it, I think.
I have a question for you guys about that. What like pinpoint moment do you think for you that the Attitude Era truly started?
For me, the exact pinpoint era of the Attitude starting was when Michaels and again, there could be something that happened before this, but like, I'm thinking of when Michaels and Triple H, like they did a weird tag team match on Raw that didn't really make sense. It was like Michaels and Triple H versus, I don't know, Mankind
and Undertaker.
Yeah, like it didn't really make sense because like at that point, Michaels was like a face, but then he randomly was like a team with like Triple H, and then all of a sudden, like to me, that's where things kind of started to get really gray because I was always so confused on why they were teaming up. There was really no build on that.
Well, same
and
thing
then they ended up like
Mankind.
Right, yeah, like it was a weird match that they had on Raw, and then all of a sudden, like the next week, Michaels came out with Triple H again and beat them up. So like they started kind of hanging around together, and it was just different. Now I don't remember if the Vince Brett segment where Brett felt he was being screwed happened before or after that match? In the cage when it was looking like that's another one in my head.
Yeah.
for me,
That's
that
where
was when the Attitude Era started.
Now,
For
was
me
that
personally.
where was that in comparison to that
That
match I was talking about?
that was shortly before, I think, because so the stuff with
That was
Sean,
on an episode of Raw, wasn't it?
yeah, yeah, like you were
Mhm.
talking. I think this was after. I want to say this was after they did the Final Four. After Sean, he relieved the belt, and then they had the Final Four from the Royal Rumble that year. Had this, it's like in your house Final Four, and
Is
it
that
was
when Vader
for.
got the bloody
It was
eye? Or
Vader,
whatever? Okay.
Taker, I think Austin and Brett, and the title was vacant, and Brett won the title at that time. And then I believe it was like the night after Sid beat Brett for the title because it was leading into WrestleMania 13. And so Sid, was going in to fight Undertaker at that. And I believe it was probably shortly after WrestleMania 13, because WrestleMania 13 was, Brett and Austin with Shamrock as the ref. And that's where we started seeing that double turn in that match, one for Austin, one for Brett. And then it was like after that, it was when Brett started having the fucking attitude with Vince, and he felt like he was getting screwed all the time. So, that was shortly before Sean, actually kind of transitioning into heel, because where they had that SummerSlam 97 match between Taker and Brett, which you could see a lot of in the Punk McIntyre match tonight. And then that's when Sean started kind of transitioning. They had the feud with Undertaker, and they were at that first one, which was in Louisville, Kentucky, Ground Zero, and that was I think the first ever match between Sean and Taker. And then like after that is when they kind of started, Sean
Wasn't that
was
the
still
first that where wasn't it a 3-hour show? The first In Your House that was 3 hours or something
I
like that. So
think so.
or
Yeah,
they
I'm
may
pretty
have
sure.
stopped with the In Your House with that show too. Maybe it was just called.
Well, they
WWF
did
Ground
that one,
Zero.
and I think after that was when they did it was In Your House Bad Blood, which was the Hell in a Cell match with Sean,
which is
and
coming
Taker.
back.
Oh yeah, it's
Yeah.
coming.
All right, Nia Jax defeated Bayley for the WWE Women's Championship. This one kind of surprised me. I didn't expect Bayley to lose tonight. What about you guys?
I honestly thought that Tiffany Stratton was going to cash in tonight. I didn't know how, but I really wasn't expecting Nia Jax.
You know what? I wasn't expecting her to cash in at all. You know why?
How's that?
They just gave her that bling bling Money in the Bank
Well, yeah,
thing,
that's
right?
true.
So they're going to try to sell those for a while.
Yeah,
They're going to
yeah,
print those out
yeah.
for all the
You're right.
all the little girls out there and try to sell them. So it's going to be a little while, I think, before she cashes in.
Yeah, I didn't really think about that till you just mentioned that, but I thought, my initial thought was that Bayley is going to win the match, but the Nia Jax is going to like flip out and beat the shit out of her, and then Tiffany Stratton's going to come out there and cash in. And then I thought, and if she did that, I thought it would have been an unsuccessful cash in. Because I thought Nia Jax would have like turned on her after that, and then we could just,
though, people shit all over Nia Jax a lot and everything, but man, she has got herself in really good shape, like compared to, her previous run. Like, I don't know if people remember how big she was.
I
She's
do.
still bigger than the
she's
rest
still on
of
the
them,
bigger side, but
yeah.
she's definitely lost a lot of
that,
weight.
and she was very green too. So, but you can tell that she's kind of owned her skills a little bit too in the ring.
Yeah, I'd say a lot of her positioning and stuff like that's better. I'm still not a huge fan, but she's gotten better, I'll say.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of Nia, but I think having her as this queen gimmick actually gives her something to do besides just being Nia. Having her as the champion's fine, but I do think at the end of the day, the ultimate goal is to make Tiffany Stratton a face. I think that's probably the end goal here with this Nia situation, is that she's gonna beat Nia for that belt, go babyface, or something's gonna happen with that. Maybe she doesn't beat her. I don't know, but I think that's the ultimate goal, is to feud them and get Tiffany to the face role. Now, where does Bayley go? I don't know where Bayley goes, man. I really don't. I feel like she was kind of stale as champion. I just don't know what you do with Bayley at this point. And she's cool and she's fine, but if they say tomorrow that Bayley's leaving, I mean, it sucks, but I don't care. Like, I don't know why, but I just don't know where we go from here with her. So is she just going to be a big kind of waste of time?
Yeah, I agree, because and this was probably my least interesting match on the card. I wasn't. I didn't really care about the build up to it. What story they had going, because even Bailey, they made it a big deal when she won the Royal Rumble, but her road to WrestleMania wasn't fucking shit. When you got to WrestleMania, you didn't really care like who won that match, her or EO. Like they were meant to build that like as this kind of like the damage control explodes type shit with their match, but I didn't care, and like there's nothing really memorable about it that I can remember. I can pinpoint from the match, and that's how I felt going into. And I hate feeling that way about going to a match, but it's just that it did nothing for me. And
well, if you really think about it, they haven't had Bailey on TV very much, really. I mean, they haven't.
I was going to say that. Yeah.
She hasn't been around enough for anybody to really care.
Yeah, her run has not been memorable at all. Like she's kind of stuck in that rut a lot, like I was mentioning before, like the other women in there. Like they get like 3 to 5 minutes to have a match, and they don't have any emphasis on anything that they do story wise. Like it sucks.
I think the women are in a tough spot right now because when you look at it, you already the top 2 champions have these stories that are already happening, right? Like Liv and Rhea, like that's its own thing. So everybody around them is not going to be going for that title. I'm assuming that Tiffany and Nia is kind of where we're going, but what do you do to all these other people? Like even think like Charlotte's got to be coming back soon. What does she do? Like where does Charlotte go at this point?
And she's done so much already. It's kind of hard to even like put her back in and make it feel fresh.
Like she's like this larger than life, person is coming back, but like where does she go? Becky's out. Where does Becky go if she ends up coming back? Like I just don't know where any of the women go because the titles are so occupied in these storylines that feel more important than these other women.
And then with Charlotte, whenever she has left and then made a return back, she's always like rocketed right into the main event storylines for the women. I feel like if they want to not have fans suspect that that's what's going to happen when she comes back again, but they need to just do something different with her, like just put her with somebody that's not really in the main event yet, at least like Jade Cargill. They could put them together and maybe have a good program, but I don't think it's a good idea when Charlotte comes back for them just like throw her right into the title scene.
The last time Charlotte got hurt, though, she had just come back, right? She only made 2 or 3 appearances.
But do you think putting her with her husband would be worth trying to make them a duo?
I'd be interested in that.
Yeah, because I think he needs something too. Like he doesn't.
I was going to say that too. Like he doesn't really have a whole lot of anything going on.
He needs a manager for one thing to speak for him because he cannot speak English very well.
His accent is pretty thick. Yeah.
Yeah.
Charlotte's a great talker, so I mean, why can't they try to work something with them two as like this unit and her really like build him up? And because we know she's great, and she can use that to build him up to be somebody more special. I think that's probably the smartest way to go because it's so different, and it's just probably a different avenue to try to get these people as like another product that they have that they can do something with these 2 people in like one role kind of.
Yeah, but to get back to like with Bailey and stuff though, like now that she, do you think she's still going to put in this title picture against Nia? You think they're going to do like a triangle thing between her, Nia, and Tiffany Stratton?
I think to buy time, probably. I think maybe like you'll see it on SmackDown or like I just think to buy time to figure out what they're going to do. I think so because I don't think they're going to hustle Stratton in yet because she's still got the case, so she's not going to be the number 1 contender. She'll do something with the case, so I think they might have to do Bailey again for a little bit, just to kind of buy time before they're ready to have her cash in.
She'll do some cash in teases or something.
Yeah, they'll probably
Cargill and Bianca. Like to me, like I'm fine with them being where they are because if you make if you take all your champions and stand them up and say, hey, here's my company, you're going on Netflix. Like Bianca and Cargill standing next to each other as your women's tag team champions, that's a pretty cool looking team right there. So
I think that's eventually going to lead to a feud between them.
100%.
One of them is turning heel on the other for sure.
It's inevitable, yeah, for sure. I would do Bianca turning on Jade though.
I mean, yeah, that'd be
the opposite of what
expect
everybody's
that
going to
much.
expect. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, next matchup, Drew McIntyre defeated CM Punk. A really long match. I love the storyline with these guys, but man, this match, I didn't think that this match was that great. It seemed to
Do you
drag
think
quite
Seth
a
got
bit.
in the way? Was it Seth? Was probably the.
Yeah, I don't think it was needed. Like, he didn't need to be
Mhm.
there.
Well, I can understand why they did put him there, though, because I said this earlier to one of my other friends in a private message. I said I believe that CM Punk and Seth Rollins are the new Brett and Shawn. And you could see a lot of that within this match because it was very reminiscent to Undertaker Brett at SummerSlam
Mhm.
'97. And as soon as I seen CM Punk come out, and I had
Yeah,
seen
that
he had
ring
the
gear.
red gear on, I said, CM Punk's getting screwed. But little did I know that he would screw himself. So I thought, like Wes said, like the match itself, as far as like the wrestling goes between the two, it was kind of uh, about as normal as you would see other matches that go on around this time. Nothing to be like so crazy to where you feel like, well, this is an important match. But the storytelling in that match is what really made it. And to me, it is my favorite match of the night. And I think that him and Drew are going to end up having a feud of the year with Rollins involved there too. So kind of a triangle thing going, I guess. And I just loved it because there was like the point in the match where like Drew is like he stands off face to face with Seth, and he says, just turn away, just let this happen, And it's like, man, that's fucking cinema. And I love that. I love everything about that match, from the bracelet with AJ and his dog's name on there, to like they were trying to tell a story with that, to where like Seth ends up with it at one point, and then the Punk kind of like fucking loses his mind because he sees that Seth's got it on now. It's so good, man. I love it.
It is the feud of the year, and I think that they made the right decision with Drew winning, because Drew McIntyre, I actually was a little bummed out that this wasn't the last match tonight, but I get why. I said that coming in. I said, if Cody's on last, Roman's coming. If if Roman is not coming tonight, Drew is going to be last. And I think Punk and Drew deserved a big spot on this card, because you're right that this has been an 8-month storyline that they've carried. And they've carried it well. And I think Drew has shown that he is what they always wanted him to be. But I think he needed this road to showcase it, because if you would have just gave him everything he wanted and put him in the main event and have him be the champ, he wouldn't have got this personality that we're getting, and realizing that he's a sarcastic dude. He's a funny guy. He looks great. He's great in the ring. Drew has come such a long way, where I look at him now and I say, you pay this guy whatever the hell he wants, because everybody on the planet's going to want Drew McIntyre. He looks the part. I mean, he's the personality is there. He's got charisma. I mean, you just see them going back and forth when he took a picture with Jack Perry or whatever, and
That was great.
Yeah,
He's the
What's
troll
so
king.
funny-
I love it.
What
It's
is
so good.
funny about that, though, is like it goes back to the AEW WWE. Everybody's comparing the two. Jack Perry is supposed to be their new like bad boy, right? That picture with Drew looked like a fan meeting a wrestler at like
A little kid, really.
He's like,
That's what I was
with like a
thinking.
little smile. I'm like, he doesn't look like a bad boy. He looks like a fanboy. Like, so it just goes to show like how much of a difference it makes. And Drew sitting there like this. But did you see CM Punk's rebuttal? I think it was today with Drew.
Oh, with Rob Feinstein.
Oh my God, I was
Holy-
freaking dying.
That was,
So
that was.
So
was
Rob Feinstein was
God
at Raw.
tier
You kept
troll.
seeing him behind the desk. So
Right.
somehow he got backstage. He knows somebody got him backstage. Now, if you guys don't, does anybody not know who Rob Feinstein is? You guys know his whole story.
Yeah.
So he was big in the wrestling game in like the 90s, 2000s, and he was on that show, Catch a Predator. So everybody knows him from that. So he's kind of been like weird with the industry. So I guess he somehow was backstage and took a picture with Drew McIntyre and posted it on his social media.
Yeah,
so Punk took that picture and like reposted it on his thing to like troll Drew. And I was like, wow, that's a ballsy move.
Yeah, and he wrote something like it said something about miners, something. Like, did you remember what it said?
I don't know,
didn't
but it
see
was
it.
like
Oh, God,
I
you
was
have to
like,
find
wow,
it.
these
What I'm talking
two
about.
are making like making this feud just feel so much more special. And
Wrestling tapes. I traded wrestling tapes.
Yeah,
oh, you
RF
100% did, because he was
Yeah.
PW, whatever it was called, whatever it is.
RF video.
RF video. I have a couple of those actually.
Yeah, I mean,
But,
I had all those RF video shoot interviews before I knew all that shit. I mean, like, but I mean, I still watch them. I mean, regardless of what that fucking guy did, because they're just really good shoot interviews done with a bunch of different wrestlers, and that's one of my favorite thing about wrestling is to learn all of these like backstage stories and personal stories and stuff from these wrestlers on shoot interviews. But
Didn't the RF video that like they were the ones that started the shoot interview thing, right?
Yeah,
was back in like the
exactly.
mid '90s.
Yeah.
He was the first one.
Yeah.
And Feinstein was really heavily in ECW towards those last couple runs. Like he was working, like he was like in feuds, like as like a manager, but he also I think worked a couple matches. So yeah, he's been around the industry a long time.
Didn't he deal with the Rob Black's XPW as well?
I'm sure he probably did. He was everywhere around that era.
Yeah, I was thinking he was. But yeah, like I remember back when I went to WrestleMania 30, like they had the WrestleCon, like the convention going on there that weekend as well. We went to that, and I went to go and meet the Dudleys, Bubba Ray and Devon, and it was at the RF video table. So Rob Feinstein was sitting right there with them, and I was like very fucking creeped out the whole time I was meeting the Dudleys. So I was like, the side of that guy is just like cringy to me, you know.
He's been in the business forever. Like he was the co-owner of Ring of Honor originally before they sold
Rob
it.
Feinstein was? I didn't know that.
He was involved in Ring of Honor. I don't know what his role was, but I do remember him involved back in the day on it.
There was a guy named like Kerry Sulkin or something. I know he was one of the guys that started Ring of Honor as well back in like 2002 or whatever it was.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure Rob Feinstein was one of the co-owners back in the day. When he
know.
got in trouble with the Catch a Predator thing, he had to sell it off.
It's wild, but they've really built this feud up, and I think the right decision was Drew. I think that I'm hoping that you never know what to think with Punk, but I think Punk does really feel like a changed man. If you look at Punk when he was in AEW versus Punk here, he looks healthier. He looks like he's in better spirits. He actually looks happy. He didn't look happy there. He didn't look good. He looked like kind of strung out. He was always ticked off all the time. It just didn't feel right. And I feel like this feels very right. And I think he's happy. And hopefully he sees the bigger picture here and wasn't, in his head, he's not, what the hell, my first singles match and I have to lose. I hope he's over that kind of shit, because I think his role is so much more important now, because like you said, I think at the end of the day, the money match is going to be Rollins Punk. And that's the match probably that they're going to drag till Mania, because that's the money match. And what we're doing is we're still telling this story. And I don't think this story's over with Drew, with Punk, with them.
No.
I think at the end of the day, it's probably going to be Rollins Punk Mania. And hopefully at that point, Drew's in a position to be, going for a world championship. So, I mean, that's where I think this is all heading for Drew. Is he the next one to challenge Gunther? I don't know. Right.
I think so. I think that's going to culminate after Bad Blood, though, maybe going into Survivor Series. But I think that the whole thing with Punk and Drew, it's definitely not done. I think they're going to have another match, possibly at Bad Blood or whatever the next pay-per-view. I think it's Bad Blood. But yeah, like the whole.
Well, they got the Berlin show coming up.
Yeah, they got that one as well. I forgot about that one. Then Punk and Rollins is, like you said, it's definitely going to go into WrestleMania next year. Like I said earlier, I compare those guys as the new Brett and Shawn, and that's you see those two big stars like that's you want to save those for the bigger shows like WrestleMania. You can
wasn't
like that too, but.
Well, Punk versus Seth, that was originally the plan, right? Before he got hurt.
It was before he got hurt. And that's I don't know about you guys, but that was another thing I was scared about. Now
I was the whole time.
With all the injuries that Punk had recently in the past and everything, I hope to God this guy doesn't get hurt again in this match.
Yeah, Drew was taking it to him in the beginning. I was like, holy shit. It was very one-sided.
Yeah, there's a few spots match that I noticed. I was like, they were being very stiff with one another. I was like, they definitely, playing that. That's not like a spur, because sometimes that happens in matches, like spur of the moment. They'll start getting, but I feel like that was pre-planned for the two. Especially and like Garrett said, I don't know how Punk would feel about losing his first singles match back. I think it was Punk's idea. I think the whole Punk screwed Punk is a tribute to Bret Hart with the Montreal screw job. And I feel like
I could see that.
That's all what it comes down to is that Punk wanted that first loss. He wanted to do it so they can use it as a storyline to where he's humbling himself because and he's like a changed man or whatever. And
I thought it was funny though when he was yelling at Seth and said something. What did Seth exactly say? He said something like, "You're not wanted here, asshole," or something like that. He said, or and then he gives him the friggin' the finish or whatever. And I thought that was just really cool. And I thought, again, from a storytelling standpoint, I thought it was great. Wrestling, I think they needed to do what they needed to do. Felt very WWE style match. It wasn't anything too crazy. Punk made me a little bit nervous, and you could tell, I think he got himself nervous when he did that Macho Man elbow. It really came off shitty. And I think it's because he probably was like, yeah, I probably shouldn't just do a real elbow drop on my tricep here. So like he kind of landed on his feet first and kind of fell into him, which I'm like, yeah, maybe that spot is probably not something you should be going back to. But again, I'm just happy he's not injured. That was my biggest thing. I was like, if he gets injured, is he done? Because like AEW, he was injured every time he had a match. And then same thing here. He was in the Rumble injured. It's like he's like Mr. Glass, but I'm glad to see that it seems like we're on a good pace right now for him to lead into the story that we all want to see. And again, I was so drawn to this match tonight, and to be this excited for a match, I haven't had that in a long time. It just felt like a big money match for once.
Yeah, I felt the same way. I mean, it felt like it was probably the best match that I've seen in a very long time as far as storytelling goes.
There was a lot of storytelling for sure. And
like,
this is the first of many. I mean, I can definitely see culmination maybe being like a Hell in a Cell match or
it's not
I Quit or something like that.
It's not going to drag on for too long because they got to put Punk in. They got to keep it fresh with him. I think because I think he's kind of on borrowed time, you could say. So they, it's like Cena next year being Cena's last year in wrestling. I mean, it could be very well that same situation for Punk, within the next couple of years. So I think that they don't want to stick him with just like one or two guys. I think they want to, give him like a greatest hits run too, like they're going to be doing with Cena. And I think, especially at Punk's age too, not just his body, because I'm sure, he'll do fine with the condition his body's in and everything, but his age too, plays a part in that. I've learned that myself. I'm almost 40 and it's hard for me to get up out of fucking bed every morning. So I can't imagine what it'd be like as a professional wrestler doing this shit all year long. So when you get that age, it's like, you gotta check yourself and say, how much time do I got left?
Yeah, Punk's definitely on borrowed time, and he's been going so hard for so long, all through Ring of Honor and all that stuff. So I agree. Like it's unfortunate because like we're finally getting him back in the ring, but who knows how long it's going to last. He's probably got at least 3 to 4, maybe 5 years max, which is a little sad, but I can understand it. You can't beat the clock, man.
Yeah, I'm definitely trying to stay optimistic about it that, that we'll have him around for a while because I'm pretty sure he just signed a new contract with them to extend some time that he was already, contracted to. And I like Punk. I know he's got a lot of people out there that hate on him and stuff and say, like he complains too much and he's caused too much problems in wrestling he's tainted the industry, bullshit like that. Dude is just, the way I see wrestling, fuck all that backstage politics stuff. Like just like who you like, man. And if you enjoy their shit, be genuine about it. Don't be like just cause it's popular to fucking hate the guy. Just, tell it how it is.
I have a weird feeling that I think Punk has changed the same way someone like a Shawn Michaels has changed. Exactly. I think something's happened to him, and I don't know if it was, I saw someone write this in the chat, is I think he thought in his head grass was greener on the other side. I'm gonna build this company and show WWE, and then Vince left. Like I think everything worked out, and I think Punk is not the same guy as he was even a year ago. I mean, he looks different, he acts different. I mean, he's He seems way more professional than I've ever seen him. Like, it's unless this is a great act, he seems like he's happy with his schedule. He's happy with the stories he's in. He's always hanging around the PC. I think he likes being with the NXT chicks down there. You know what I mean? Like, he seems happy, like, right now.
He's happy that Vince is gone for sure.
I think there's a lot of different things, and I think that he's somebody that WWE probably said, listen, like, show us you've changed, and like we might have something for you forever. Like, he could be an agent, he could work down at the PC. Like,
commentary.
There's so many opportunities, right? Like, so
yeah.
This is honestly probably his last chance. So hopefully he's been like, you know what, this is it. If I screw up now, I'll never be back here.
Yeah.
I've seen reports of them saying like he was gonna take over NXT like when Sean's gone. So that'd be a great role for him.
I was about to say the same thing. Like, I had remember him going on record saying that whenever he does eventually retire from wrestling, he wants to be a coach for newer wrestlers coming or trying to get a startup in the business within NXT. And I think that's maybe why he's been going and paying visits to NXT here recently, being backstage and just maybe trying to give them tips to what they can do to go out there and be on the same level as main roster. And I think NXT now is starting to garner a lot more interest than what it has in a while because they're doing the partnership with TNA. They're bringing people from that company over and working with. The Joe Hendry stuff is fucking like over the top, like over.
Dude, that could be a huge star. Do you hear the stuff he's doing too to like get himself over? Like this dude,
music and stuff. Yeah.
Well, they said that he did something like I think it might have been at the last pay-per-view or something like that, where he like, or maybe it was SummerSlam, maybe it was this one. He paid to like get his face on like all the billboards around the area. So like when people were driving in, they would just see his face on like billboards. And like they're probably like, who the hell is this guy? Like I think he was doing like things, or he went to Raw and like signed his autograph 8x10 to put him on all the cars in the parking lot and stuff like that. Like I mean, that's getting himself over, and that guy is super popular. And whatever the relationship is with WWE and TNA, this guy's benefiting the most because they said there's even something now where he's going to be training at the PC. Like so, and he's still under contract with TNA. So there's a lot of crazy stuff going on. I love it. I think this is what WWE needed to evolve themselves. And it's a place that it seems like before everybody's like, I want to go to AEW because WWE sucks. It's like I'm working in like, there's a one drill sergeant and everybody else has to follow the rules and you can't do it. This feels like people like, oh my God, it's actually a cool place, a fun place to work. You can tell the dynamic, the feel, it's so different since Vince left.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking about that earlier as I was watching SummerSlam. Like, there are a lot of stuff that they're doing now that you could tell there's a huge difference since Vince and Kevin Dunn and a lot of people that was behind the scenes on production have left, and you can really see this Triple H era taking effect. And like I said, earlier, if it's not broken, don't try to fix it. And I think that, it was hard for Vince to have that mindset when he was in control because he was just always wanting to try, new ideas and stuff. And some that didn't, even if they were really stupid, he would still want to try them to see what would work about them. But, with, Triple H, kind of being like within that, we talked about the Attitude Era being possibly the biggest era of wrestling ever in history. Triple H was right in the middle of all that, and he knows what works, from a personal level. So he's like, some people there's going to be people that complain about everything, every aspect of wrestling, and there's going to be people that complains about them rehashing storylines, all this. If it works, if you do it and it works, then who the fuck cares?
I've been saying that for a very long time, and I'm totally on point with what you're saying. Is that you look back in the history books and you find which storylines worked, and you can rehash those storylines and make it work again. And people, all these new people aren't going to know. Like, I mean, in my head, I always felt like the Michaels with the manager Diesel bodyguard storyline always worked really well. Like, why can't they just do something like that now? Bring in a guy, get him popular, get him a bodyguard, build them up to be these huge stars, break them up. Now they're feuding. Like they did that with Drew and Ziggler, and I thought that like it was gonna go somewhere.
AJ and Omos.
Yeah, so it didn't work, but I mean, rehash it. But I never think they give it enough time. But what they did, I mean, you look at this, you look at Rhea and Dominic. I mean, this is Eddie and China. I mean, there's so many similarities between this here. So I like that they're throwing in things with like, okay, this kind of worked. Let's do this. Like, look at what they're doing with the Wyatt Six and with Bo Dallas now. It's almost got that Foley-ness to it where it's like you got Bo Dallas, and now you got Captain Howdy. But they're like, they're not the same, but they're the same. So like there's so many different things that I think that they're doing that is working. So yeah, 100%.
Almost
like
he's bad. John Gonzalez, he's not that bad. Dude, I was watching I'd read something. I'm always looking at random crap on the internet, right?
Mm-hmm.
Giant Gonzalez's last match was in like New Japan in 1995, and it's online. It's like a tag match that he does with, I think Fred Ottman, Typhoon was in the match as well, right? Dude, the entire match, that guy's leaning on the top rope. Like he's not doing nothing that whole match. Because I was curious, because he could barely move in WWF in like 93. So
well, it's weird because but again, I was a little kid, but when he was Elegante in WCW back in like the early 90s, I always thought he was pretty decent for a huge guy like that. But I don't know if something had happened to him injury wise, or I was just overlooking it, you know, like I could have been a little kid just thinking he was great because he was so big, but I feel like back then he wasn't that terrible. That by the time they got him, he
was pretty immoral in that last match. So, but anyway, continuing on. Speaking of legends, they had a Legends Suite for the first time. I'd never seen him. I guess that may be a regular thing for the pay-per-views. Rick and Scott Steiner, PDP, X-Pac, Kevin Nash, and the female was reported to be Jackie Gata, who I have not seen in many years. Is that who that was? That's what I'm reading on here, because I didn't know who she was. They didn't mention her name, and I was like, what the hell happened to her?
Man, I think like after her and Charlie Haas split, I think she kind of went downhill or something.
Well, I saw a picture of her recently, and she looked terrible, but did she look bad tonight? I saw a blonde in the back. I couldn't tell who it was, though.
She looked like one of those that had a little bit too much like plastic surgery done. Like,
I'll never understand the Botox stuff. Why people that look great already, they destroy themselves by injecting that.
When they're really young, still too. A lot of them are. They'll fool with that shit. But I think we lost Mark. I think he was having connection issues.
I watched that show, The Boys, and the chick that plays Starlight on The Boys, she did that. And this last season, they just got done showing season 4. She just looks completely different from what she looks in the rest of the show, and they don't make any kind of like mention of that or anything by the characters of the show, which she probably didn't want them to, just out of respect or something. But it's so odd, man.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But continuing on here, we've had quite the crowd in here, almost up to 100 people at one time. So we appreciate everybody tuning in. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe on both channels.
Mm-hmm. Mark said the hotel Wi-Fi sucks.
Go put that's what happens when you get a free suite. I mean, it is what it is.
Go to the front desk and put them through a table.
Hotel Wi-Fi always sucks, man. I've never known it to be that good. I always use my cellular data, but that's just me. But anyway, next matchup on SummerSlam tonight.
Oh, boy, can I just say one last thing about Punk and McIntyre? I know I sent it to the US, but I don't know if Garrett has seen this yet, or Mark or anybody in chat. But there was a video of this fan who was at the meet and greet stuff earlier today with Bailey and Drew McIntyre that was hosted by Wingstop. But this fan had bought this CM Punk jacket, and he went to ask Drew to sign it, and he said, "Would you sign it? Fuck you, Punk." And Drew signs it, "Fuck you, Punk," but then he adds "cunt" and signs his name. And I'm like, that's fucking amazing.
Oh my god. they're letting them be a little bit more lenient, I guess.
Because when Vince was over that, there's no way he would let any of the roster sign something like that.
Well, I'm really interested in seeing that when the Netflix deal starts, You know that they're going to have to at least throw around some language. Like that's going to be. I can see Raw being the more edgier show, since SmackDown's still going to be on the USA Network. Like I think that'll be interesting. And is it going to be 3 hours?
Yeah. I know Triple H said in some either on Twitter or one of those press conferences or something that like whenever they bring Raw to Netflix, it's going to include like all the previous Raws too. And I know Peacock has the licensing until 2026, I believe, or 27. I'm not sure, one of those. But I wondered if once they bring everything over exclusively to Netflix at some point, do you think it's going to remain the same as what's on Peacock right now, or do you think they'll bring any of the edited stuff out back? I'm just kind of curious about that myself.
I don't know. I would love to see the old stuff come back, and I'd love to see it on unedited or whatever. I don't know. I don't know where they go with it. But it's making, if you guys still have your DVDs and all this other stuff, it's making those more valuable the more they start to cut these things and whatnot.
Yeah, well, that's true too, but I don't.
I don't know.
I think with the internet the way it is, if you want to watch something the way it originally aired, it's not going to be very hard to do. Most of it's on YouTube now, man. It's so weird. Like anything that you want to see, you can just search for it.
Babyface Thompson says Netflix is letting Zack Snyder have a 3+ hour director's cut of his trash. They'll let them do anything they want. Oh my God. Maybe you're right, I guess.
Gunther versus Damian Priest, the World Heavyweight Championship. Great match, man. Gunther stuff. Like, I don't know if I've ever seen a Gunther match that I didn't get into, just because it always looks like he's beating the fuck out of everybody.
And the dude's a heel, and like the outcome of that match, after he stands up on the announcer table and like raises his arm with the belt towards the crowd. I mean, like the dude's a heel, but that he'd been waiting for that moment his entire career. And I was like, dude, I'm so happy for him. Like he deserves this fuck, because like you said, every match I've ever seen with him, it's just been like Sheamus says, banger after banger after banger. And tonight was no different with him and Priest. I mean, they're both big dudes, just like fucking slugging it out. It was awesome to see. And for this whole title run with Priest, nothing seemed really any kind of special about it to me until tonight, until that match he had with Gunther. I thought, I was like, all right, this guy has really earned his spot to be in the main event. I mean, it was like one of the better. Well, I mean, there's been a lot of good. I'm not saying there's any bad Gunther matches, but it was one of probably my favorite Gunther matches that I have seen.
Yeah, and Gunther always
at the same time.
He always does. His stuff's always great, and it was cool to see, like, his chest was bleeding, and he's like rubbing it all over him or whatever.
It's just ruffles it through his hair. I was like,
he's just a great character, and I think, again, what was cool about this is it's passing it to Gunther, which is great because he deserves it. And it's setting Priest up for something else and something bigger. And again, I think the Judgment Day has been an awesome thing. I think they're a cool faction. It's been a while since we've had a cool faction that you kind of look and you're like, dude, I want to be part of that group. I want to hang out with that group.
I think wrestling is just becoming cool again in general. I think that they're doing a lot of things right now to try to appeal to different audiences, to bring them into the WWE crowd. I think it's super smart because, the Attitude Era did that. I don't think anybody can do that any better than what the Attitude Era did. But I love to see more and more people coming back to the product after not watching it for so many years. I mean, I love that because it shows that, wrestling is becoming a part of pop culture once again. They're even like throwing guys like Cody Rhodes in that show I was talking about, The Boys. Like he did a promo for The Boys, like posing as Homelander. And I'm like, man, I love that because they're just tying WWE into everything. Even like you play that mobile game called WWE Supercard. They're doing like a Street Fighter. So they were showing commercials for it tonight during
Summerslam. Yeah.
And I was like, oh man, that's awesome. That's like this promotional stuff, interpromotional stuff, and just interpromotional stuff in wrestling companies too. Like I mentioned TNA, and like it reminds you what they're doing now. Like you thought it would never be possible. It would never be possible under Vince's helm at WWE, but so many people, and I think Triple H was like that because this was kind of during the time when he was getting into becoming a wrestler. We was getting trained and everything, but like the whole territories era of wrestling, I feel like that's happening again. Like they're starting to be more open to that because AEW's done it for a while, and there's other independent companies that would do like interpromotional stuff like Ring of Honor and Pro Wrestling Guerrilla and Chikara and stuff like that, but Chikara's not even around anymore. But you love seeing you thought 10 years ago, watch as a WWE fan, say that WWE, if someone told you and said WWE and TNA are going to be having a partnership and they're going to have their people from their roster go from one show to the other and compete, I would, if you were asking me that, I'd be like, there's no way that'll ever happen.
Knowing Vince, no, definitely not.
It's interesting to see which doors are opening though. So like, for instance, I heard that I don't follow Japan anymore. So whoever AJ just wrestled in Japan, I think they want to bring him over and do a match here at a pay-per-view and do like
it seems like that they're more open to mixing things up. And now more than ever, especially during the last 10 years of Vince's reign or whatever, the pay-per-views or the PLEs or whatever, now each one of those feels like a big deal. Right? They're in France, Saudi Arabia, wherever the hell they're at. They're going to be in Berlin in these big stadiums and everything. All these events are coming across as just a can't miss sort of deal. And, it's just adding to, like somebody mentioned, they're in some of the wrestlers are in Call of Duty now, Mortal Kombat or whatever the hell it is. I mean, they're getting out there.
It's huge. I think that's super important. And like you said, each thing feels like a big deal. And you know what I think that they're doing right is they're taking some of these non-Big Four pay-per-views that kind of sometimes could be throwaways, and they're putting them in other countries, which the crowds over there make them feel like these humongous events. So I think it's smart to put some of these like kind of off-tier events in these other countries to give them more of like a big event feel.
What was that show in France? Was that Backlash? That crowd was insane.
Oh my god, that was one of the best crowds that I've seen in a long time.
They were like singing or whatever.
Yeah.
And I think
they had the hard camera shaking. It was crazy.
And I think that's why Triple H and WWE are. I was dying at that.
I don't know about Bill Cosby and the Cosby Kids coming to WWE, but we appreciate the super chat.
But what I was saying was, I think like a lot of these international shows that WWE is doing, that they're doing it on purpose because they know that those crowds that rarely get events as much as the United States does, that they're going to be waiting forever to for them to come to their country so they could show what kind of crowd they can be. And I think the one in France, the Backlash, showed that. I thought that the Elimination Chamber in Australia showed that. Almost every show that they do in Canada, the crowd is amazing, which I believe that's where Survivor Series is taking place this year, is in Toronto. And I have my opinions on that. I think they're going to do a Bloodline War Games match. And I think it being in Canada, I think Sammy has to be involved in that match.
He's going to be involved. That's where he's going next. Because when you look at the crew, right, and we can talk about this later. I mean, but Roman needs one more on his side. So who would that one be? It's either going to bring in somebody from the outside that we don't know, or they're gonna take in Sammy, who was part of the Bloodline that whole stretch.
I think Cody's going to be involved in that somehow.
You're going to throw Cody in there?
I think so. After that look that him and Roman gave each other tonight, and they kind of like have like a nod of respect type thing. I think it's going to come down that since Cody's so heavily involved with the Bloodline stuff already, I think they're going to Roman's going to come to Cody and be like, "Hey, I need you."
I don't hate that idea. I actually like that idea. I don't mind Cody, but do you think that Cody's tricky right now? Because I feel like, to me, I'm fine with what he's doing. I think he's good for the company. Keep him where he is. He's a glorified star regardless. but I already see people kind of turning on him as like, oh god, like it's
Well,
not as big as we thought it was going to be. Now sliding him into this bloodline thing where they look and they've been like, that's Sammy's spot. Like, is that going to hurt Cody? Because
I
you're going
don't
to have
think
those
so.
hardcores that are going to be like, that doesn't make sense. Sammy belonged in there, which I get it,
Well,
but for a big match feel, I think Cody would feel like a bigger deal being in there, and he needs to still be kind of in the top end of the card.
I mean, I think Cody is a huge deal. I mean, I know there's always going to be people that's going to turn on like fan favorites and stuff. You see it there. You've seen it so much with Cena back, in the heyday with him. His first couple runs as champion. I mean, they really started turning on him, especially in 2006. If you've seen, which is possibly one of my favorite pay-per-views of all time, ECW One Night Stand 2006, where the match with him and RVD. I mean, they were just like
That crowd was hostile,
brutal.
yeah, for sure.
They were brutal with Cena, and but like with Cody though, yeah, I feel like that's the same thing that's going with him. It's almost like there's a lot of guys like that right now. You can kind of compare them to kind of like paths that they took, that guys in the past have taken. Like we were talking about Braun Breaker earlier. It's obvious they're going on the path with him as they did with Goldberg and then his initial like WCW run with the streak and stuff. And while Braun Breaker has lost some matches, I think he's just it's kind of more of a not a streak thing, but he's just going to be like one of that new dominant guy. And Cody is like that in that sense, is where Cena is exiting the world of wrestling altogether pretty much after next year. They want to have a guy for the new generation to fill that kind of role, and I think that's why they chose Cody for that, because I think he's been through so much from his path in wrestling that he knows he can take it, because he's probably heard it all, seen it all. And I think that he is, eventually going to possibly feud with Orton. I think they're going to do with that. And maybe there's also been talk of him fighting The Rock at WrestleMania next year. Some people said Roman and Rock's going to be next year. Then some people said Cody and Rock are going to, because that would kind of come full circle back to the night after WrestleMania when Rock and Cody kind of had that conversation. Because he's like, I have to go away for a while, all that, blah, blah, blah. So they're going to come back.
Do you think he's done with the whole bloodline thing? I mean, where does The Rock fit in with the bloodline? Because he was like
I think The Rock is the final boss. I think The Rock was the one who told
he's
Solo
the one behind
like I think he's bringing all these guys in. He's telling Solo, do this, do that. I think the end of the bloodline story is going to be Rock Roman. Now, where that happens and when that happens, I don't know. But I really think that's the end goal. So is it Rock beats Cody, titles versus Roman, gets it back to Roman at the final battle? I don't know, but I think that's the big
I think SummerSlam next year is going to be Roman and Rock. I think they're going to wait till then on that. I think they should do Cody and Rock first at WrestleMania. And because WrestleMania is their biggest show of the year, it seems more and more like they are making like shows like SummerSlam and Royal Rumble and all the big four pretty much just as important as WrestleMania, because you kind of see that with SummerSlam starting next year in Minneapolis, they're going to be doing 2 nights. So I feel like they're using those big four as their most important shows again to get to where these storylines will culminate. And I think that's what happened with like Drew and Punk tonight, that they used. It was a huge big fight feel. It felt like a WrestleMania match. But we know with that one it's going to continue. And the stuff with Cody and the Bloodline, that's going to continue. And I feel like that might come to a conclusion with Cody and the Bloodline at Survivor Series, if he is included in that match with as part of Roman's team. But I guess we'll see.
Let me ask you this though, like with Gunther, where do you go? Of course, he won tonight, which I was glad. And they're setting up something between the Judgment Day, or at least Finn Balor and Damian Priest, which that's where they're going with those two. But where do you guys think Gunther's going?
Gunther could be like, I think, to be honest, I think him and Drew might be the match that, like, maybe Rumble, Mania, Survivor Series. I don't know, but I think
Have they already had that show Clash at the Castle yet?
Yeah, I think that was
the one that drew. What happened? He headlined, but what did he? I forget what he did.
Don't
I
ask
mean,
me. I don't
He
know.
got screwed. Punk screwed him.
Oh yeah.
Oh, is that it? Okay.
Yeah. So I think the end goal with is going to be a Gunther Drew feud, but I also think that we might see him do some stuff. I don't know. They'll probably throw Sheamus up there to do something for a couple months.
Well, they
not
got that
win
show too. I mean, they could do Drew.
I think that's
Berlin,
where
yeah,
show.
the Bash at
Yeah,
Berlin,
who he
like that's
faces
gonna
there?
be-
Maybe he faces Jay. No, because Jay will be locked into that other feud.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I think what I liked about this is, like I said, I loved the Judgment Day. I think they're a cool faction. Is it a little bit of a bummer? I never wanted them to break up because there's been rumors of a breakup for like a year. And I'm like, oh God, please don't break them up. Because in my head, if they break them up, everybody goes their own way. Nobody's over. Balor's relegated to a tag team for the next 6 years with McDonough doing nothing. Like, that's what in my head is happening. Dominic's not doing shit. Like, when they say let's break up the Judgment Day, in my head, that's where I think they're going. They're going to focus on only Priest and Rhea. Everybody else is going to get thrown to the side. That was my concern. That was my worry. I'm a huge Finn fan. I think Finn has so much upside. I think any company would want Balor. I still think he's not the greatest on the mic, but he's a good heel. I think he's good. He's great in the ring. He's got a great look. I don't know what the deal is with the Demon and why they kind of squashed that because it was super over. But I think that they just gave Finn a huge contract to stay because he was thinking about leaving. And, then I was like, well, if they're going to pay him this money to stay, like, I hope they do something with him. Well, tonight it showed like that there is going to be something here. Like, Finn's going to take over this group. Is it going to be a mastermind plan from day one? I don't know. But it's got to be him, McDonough, Carlito, I guess, Dom, and Liv. Liv's going to be the new Rhea, right? Like, that's going to be the new faction, which I'm cool with, and I want to see where this goes because it at least shows me that they're not going to just throw these guys off to the side. Now, what does Rhea and Priest do? I don't know, but how cool would it be if it's never going to happen, but it would have been sweet to have Edge sneak in now again. That was the original two. The original two are out now, right? So
that's exactly what I was going to say. That was that
would have been super cool to have Edge sneak back in and have them versus the new, kind of the same bloodline thing. But I'm sure Edge is tied up under a big contract. But
and he's injured.
But like you said too, I don't know what Buddy Murphy's status is, right? Like, could he slide in the line with them?
Actually, didn't somebody say
so?
That AEW offered him like a crazy contract?
Yeah, he re-signed with them for sure.
Yeah.
But I think they got to be really smart with this because I think as much as they have an upside in Priest, I think he's the one that could get hurt the most out of all this because if you've got the new bloodline, the new Judgment Day doing all this different shit. Lives in there now. They're feuding with Priest, but then what happens when that feud's over? Like, where does Priest go?
That's my biggest worry is that, like, so for one, I thought this was the best world title match that Priest had as champion. He was fantastic. Yeah. But like, where does he go after he feuds with Finn? Now you brought up the Demon, Garrett, and the last time I think we saw the Demon was he lost to Roman, which I thought was a horrible idea. It should have just been a regular match. Like, leave that side of Finn's character like undefeated and keep the mystique to it and all that. But that was the last time we saw it. But what the hell happens after Priest beats Finn? Like, I think he's going to slide down the card. And that's really unfortunate if that does happen.
It's hard to say because like that very well could, be a possibility. Like the thing with him and Finn right now, like I think that might drag out for a while. And we could even possibly see the Demon return with Finn Balor because I don't know if you guys followed Priest's career before WWE when he was Punishment Martinez in Ring of Honor.
I've seen a few matches, yeah.
But his character was kind of similar to what it is now, but it was a bit darker. I mean, he would have matches where they would bring a coffin out up on stage and Priest would come out of it like a vampire or something. And I thought, maybe they could bring that back as kind of a love letter to those old school fans. And like, hey, he's doing this character again, and they could put him against Finn as in the Demon character, and they could I don't know if they'll probably have a match at Bad Blood. I'm imagining they should do some kind of theme with it. If you ask me.
Yeah, I agree to make it a little more special. And I also think that they should kind of go back and forth and carry this out. I would hate for it to be like, you build this up, Priest beats Finn. Now Finn's got a loss, and then Priest goes on to do bigger and better things. And then Balor's looking for something to do because I think Balor is such a huge star, but I feel like he's still untapped with that tonight from a storytelling standpoint, from a character standpoint, just the way Finn put the leg up and just turned around and put his head down was money. Like the way
his facial expression was amazing.
He spinned and just put his head down like this, like as in like he just kind of snapped. Like you just look at that and you're like, wow, it was like the way it was acted on his part was like that was so perfect. Like the way he was able to kind of get that inner. He was always good at that. He was always good at having a character and really
had that,
have
that
psychology.
Like he was leering at him. It's like I fucking hate this guy. You get that. You don't have to say it, but you can tell by his body language.
It wasn't just like this, and then he turns around, he's like this. He the way he did it, turned around. It was like psychology behind it. I was like, holy shit! Like
that image of his face is going to be like on every wrestling message board. It's going to be everybody's avatar.
I'm gonna change it to my Facebook cover photo.
It was cool, man, and I'm curious to see where this goes. Now, I saw people talk about, does Finn change the name? Does it become Bullet Club? Does it do this? There's that. There's opportunity, right? Like he could easily slide AJ in this thing. Like him and AJ, they were Bullet. Like what does AJ do now, right? Like there's so much opportunity here. I just hope they don't kind of make these guys like the shitty version of Judgment Day. Like I hope they actually try to build it and keep them an important part of the show. And I think, to be honest, Liv being in there is going to help keep this afloat.
I wouldn't mind AJ coming back in. I mean, because how many times did they try to do the thing with, I guess it was the club, but not Bullet Club with Gallows and Anderson. Those guys can catch a break. They'd be re-signed and fired so many times.
Right.
But,
all good.
Yeah, we'll see where it goes.
One segment that there's just things that randomly tickle me, and R-Truth is great. And they had this segment with Miz and R-Truth.
You're gonna talk about the eye, aren't you? I bet that cracked you up, didn't it? I watched it. I was like, I couldn't believe right now.
He fixed his eye.
One of them fixed their eye. And I was like, holy shit, I can't believe you said that.
I knew that was going to get you. That was going to pop you. I knew it. Right when he said, I go, Wes is popping.
Oh, I'm a huge Rock and Roll Express mark, too, just like Wes. And when he said that, I was like, oh, my God, that's...
R-Truth is from, I think he's from Tennessee, right? So he's like that whole area. He's familiar with it.
Because because when TNA started under the NWA stuff, NWA TNA or whatever it was called, I guess back in 2002, he was Ron the Truth Killings, and he was the first ever NWA World Heavyweight Champion that was a black guy.
I remember that.
That's awesome, and he deserves it because he's come so far, and since then, and I mean, he deserves every bit of success he gets, in wrestling.
He's just great. Like his stuff on Instagram is awesome.
He's so funny.
Yeah,
he's so funny, dude.
Jelly Roll got involved, boss. We were talking about that a little bit earlier. I couldn't believe it. He took somewhat of a bump. He had a hard time getting up from it.
Bro, that choke slam though was like
that wasn't him though.
But it looked great.
That was like
they sold it. Yeah,
Undertaker choke slam.
That was a hell of a jump.
Somebody and I said it was the choke slam from Gel. That was what that one was. But I mean, he fucking rocked him, dude.
I seen something earlier that said that I guess that Jelly Roll said off camera to someone that it was his childhood dream to choke slam Austin Theory.
But I mean, you could tell he appreciated that. Like he loved it. You could tell that he had the time of his life in there. And I have to respect that somebody like that is, likes the sport that much that he was that, over the moon to do a spot like that.
Yeah. That's
so this
cool.
leads up to the main event, WWE Championship match. Big match feel to it. They follow Cody out of the bus. He's got his dog.
Pharaoh, yeah. That's awesome.
and follows up to the very end where he meets up with Double
Arn
A,
Anderson.
Arn Anderson, give him some words of wisdom, boys.
So is Arn Anderson's done with AEW then, I guess, right?
Right.
Oh
He
yeah,
is, yeah.
He's been done with them for a while, and once he got done with AEW, I said, well, they got to eventually bring him at some point back into WWE and do something with Cody. I was not expecting that tonight. Honestly, I thought that really popped me when I seen Arn Anderson and he was giving that pep talk. I was like, this fucking rules. This is why I love wrestling.
I think he'll manage him again for sure. I remember like a month or two ago, Cody talking about that, like he wanted a manager again, and I was thinking, like, man, if only Arn Anderson could get out of his contract, and it all came together.
Did he tell him to take a Glock to the ring
Dude,
or anything like that?
I'll tell you somebody else too, and like this was probably one of the last times I was really impressed in AEW is when FTR was it Tully Blanchard that was with him, right?
Tully
Briefly.
Blanchard, yeah.
And there was a promo that was exclusive to YouTube, and I was like, this is the best like just the shit that Tully was saying. So I mean, I don't know if Tully's still signed with him or not, but he would be a good manager for somebody. Good.
Yeah, I love when they, I mean, personally, I guess it's just a biased thing because it's nostalgic for me. But like, I love when they bring these older guys back and put them in storylines in different positions within the company. Like when Jericho had that Mania match years ago, I think it was at WrestleMania 25 when he fought Piper, Snuka, and Steamboat, and him and Steamboat went like a good while in that match, and then they ended up having a rematch like at Backlash or something. So like I'm a huge Ricky Steamboat mark, and I was like, that was so awesome to see him like come back just for that one little thing, and he could still go at that age. And I met Ricky Steamboat finally. Me and my brother met him about a year or two ago in Ashland, Kentucky, at that Bluegrass Wrestling Con, and possibly one of the nicest wrestlers I've ever met. I mean, it's hard to beat Roddy Piper, but Ricky Steamboat is definitely up there. And but with seeing Arn Anderson come back in this role that he's in, I mean,
somebody could get Tully then.
I
always wanted to see Charlotte versus Tully's daughter, and I know Tully's daughter is probably not going to be around.
Tessa. Tessa.
Yeah, but that was always one of those matches that I was like, oh man, how cool would that be if you had a big Charlotte Tessa feud or something like that?
Something happened with her though. Like there was
she pissed a lot of chicks off, I guess, in TNA and all this stuff. And the problem is like there's a lot of women that don't like her, like Chelsea Green, and I know that they have a lot of high hopes with Chelsea, so I'm sure if that's cause a problem. But there was something she did on the internet, I think, where she maybe she made a slur or something like that. And I think
I just know that like they were launching her to the moon, especially when she was with Impact Wrestling. She was like the first ever, I think, Impact Wrestling world champion that was not a male, which was, it was a weird story, but like I was into it. I really liked because she was doing this thing with Sami Callihan, and I thought they were like putting on a really good program together. And then it's just all of a sudden, like she just kind of dipped out of the public eye when it came to wrestling. I'm like, what happened? And I remember reading something vaguely about like what you're talking about. Like she said some stuff to
He's
other
super
wrestlers.
racist according to Justin Smith. I don't know though.
But
like I've heard a lot of stuff.
I don't know too much.
She was also dating Ricochet for a long time, and I knew that was a problem because that didn't end well, but obviously now he's out, so I guess so I don't think she'll be in, but it's unfortunate because when she was in, remember they brought her in for that like Mae Young Classic tournament. She was the standout in my opinion. She didn't win obviously, but she had I think 2 matches on that tournament, and I was like, man,
I'm just shocked that they didn't push her on there. I thought that was going to be like her big like coming out like thing, but they didn't do anything with her.
And wasn't Piper Niven and Chelsea Green both in that Mae Young Classic too?
Maybe Piper definitely was. Santana Garrett was, which I'm surprised they didn't pick her up either. And Rhea was, and who else was a big star in that? Like, that's where Bianca started. And I knew right away when I saw Bianca, I was like, all right, this girl's gonna be something special.
Wasn't Rhea in that too?
Rhea was in it, but she was a blonde. Yeah. Yeah, and then so wasn't Ellering's daughter or something like that.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
I forgot about that. Yeah, they're not really using him too well either, are they?
Yeah, it's unfortunate though. I would have loved to see Tessa get a run in WWE. It just sucks. But
so this Bloodline Rules match though, we're still on the main event.
Can we even talk?
29 minutes and 14 seconds. There was plunder in this, but I was expecting a lot more, right? The Tonga brothers kind of got taken out kind of early on.
Jake Fatu is injured for sure, I think.
Tonga Loa, what happened to his fucking eye, or did they just decide to give him a patch?
Something happened to it.
Okay.
I think
forget, but I mean,
it happened to it like during a match or something at a house show or something like that. I can't remember exactly, but I know that is a legit injury to his eye. But like there was like, I can't remember if it was his idea. It was one of the guys in the new Bloodline's idea for him to wear an eye patch because it would make him look more like
it actually does kind of look cool with it. Like I kind of think it's a cool look, and the other two they kind of looked very similar, so I think it really sets him apart to have something different. I like it a lot, but somebody said that
one-eyed Tonga.
Yeah,
somebody said that Triple H said that Fatu really got injured, and you could tell that ending didn't go the way they wanted. Roman just came out, got him, and then that was it. Like he was supposed to spear everybody.
Yeah, that sucks.
You could tell he was trying to stand back upon his leg. He just the look on his face and that when
tore an ACL, man. That's what it looked like to me.
He knew he was done there, and that's why I think he reacted so emotionally. When he was like screaming at Solo to just get him.
Solo almost looked like he didn't know what to do.
Yeah,
he looked like he was like, "Oh shit,
sure
what
they
am I
were
gonna
like
do?" And he's like, "Just go in there!" Like he was pissed. Like,
yeah, they were scrambling for sure. And I feel like if Jacob Fatu had not got injured, then we would have seen some like Jimmy Uso would have came out after that. I feel like they skipped Jimmy and said, "Let's just go straight to Roman and bring him out." Because there was definitely something they had to cut from that because there was more to that with Jacob. But I hate that dude because the guy is so good. I mean, he is really very impressive.
And you can tell that they really like him because he's being pushed as like the biggest one in that group right now. Like the way that they're talking about him, I feel like he's the one that everybody really has high hopes for in the future. And the fact that he's out on injury, like that's not good, man.
You gotta look at it like this too, though. Like the Usos' baby brother is main eventing SummerSlam when those dudes have been there for how long? I mean, they've main evented some shows and everything, but like it took Solo less than a year, and he's already main eventing like a major pay-per-view.
Wasn't it the main event at SummerSlam last year, Jay and Roman?
I don't know.
Was that what it was?
I can't remember.
I think so, because that's the one where Jimmy like shows up and turns on Jay and cost him the match. I'm pretty sure. I could be wrong.
I don't remember it all.
I'm just
saying like he's doing it really quickly, like he's their baby brother. And his character's developing quite a bit too, and I think he's great.
Yeah, I'm happy to see him getting a push because, like I said, you need some new people that feel important, and if this is going to help put that group over, because you need that group to be strong by the time they face the Usos and Roman, because the Usos and Roman are already strong. We know that, so you need to have a group that's got some kind of, power that when you see these two going at it, it's not just like, oh, it's going to be a squash match. So I think that it's important for them to put these guys over. I think this dude's injury is a big problem for the story.
Yeah, I think they cut into that big time because I also felt like because there was a couple of guys that was actually confirmed to be in the building tonight, along with Zilla Fatu, who they've been kind of rumoring that he would join one of those sides of the bloodline. Do you guys feel like with the injury that happened with Jacob that it not only cut, like I said, possibly bringing out Jimmy Uso, but maybe a new member of that bloodline of Solos as well?
Easily. But the only thing now is if they want to pivot, who knows what this guy's injury is? Can he make it to Survivor Series where they were supposed to maybe have that match? And if he can't, then they're going to need to slide someone else in there.
Yeah, hopefully it's not a major injury. I mean, it kind of looked like it could be. But you never know.
I think it's 100%. I mean, just that you could tell like how I could just tell like he was how painful it was for him, not just like physically, but mentally too, because he was finally brought into WWE just here recently, and he's put in the main event like situation, the storyline, and you could just tell that he was broken. Man, I hate that for the guy. I hope. Because he's really, like I said, he's really good. I hope
wasn't he just recovering from some sort of injury too?
I think so. I think you're right.
Okay. So
Yeah, I know a lot of people are talking about. Here's the thing, though. The Rock has so much power now. It's not over. Like he. I don't know if it's I'm doing my family favors or if he sees the big picture and he's trying to make this work. Because I mean, for a fact, his daughter wouldn't be the NXT general manager if it wasn't for him. Nia probably wouldn't be in the position she's in if it wasn't for him. So he is kind of pulling some strings, but I can't deny that this bloodline thing is working. So as much as it's like, oh, he's bringing in all his family, he's doing this, it's not. But it's not her. It's actually improving the product. So I mean, I can't shit on it because it's keeping shit fresh. I actually don't mind seeing all these random Fatus running into the thing that I don't know and then being part of the show now because we don't. It's been such a long time since we've been surprised. So when these things happen, and I'm kind of like, "Who's this? What's this?" And
their problem
will
come. Their problem will come whenever that storyline's over,
right? Because you look at that and you're like, Jacob Fatu could be fine. Maybe Solo's fine. Those other ones, though, the Tongo
it's like the guy from
the Gorillas of were they Gorillas of Destiny, I think is what their tag team was in New Japan.
They might just be a tag team for the rest of their career together with like no role to go, like a low card tag team, kind of like
they'll be like the Usos were originally
doing or whatever.
But
I mean, I just see. Like you said, at the end of the day is where we're going to figure out where all these guys are going to go, and not everybody's going to be a top.
It's like the third guy from Imperium. What happened?
They
drafted a SmackDown, but I don't know.
Ended, so I don't know.
I don't know. Like that's what I'm saying. They kicked him out though, but he hasn't been seen since.
Right. I think they said he was going to SmackDown. I saw something recently, but I mean, what do you do with him though?
Right.
They're going to probably fire him, I'd say.
You can't. He doesn't seem like a kind of guy that's going to get over as a.
He wasn't very good,
singles.
but
like Roman was saying, with the way it's working right now with the bloodline, where they could bring in a bunch more of these Fatus and people from that Samoan family, and as long as it's working, I mean, I just let them keep doing it. I think that they've just been testing the waters for so long with this, and everything has worked with it so far. So why would they stop? If you keep that training going, why are you going to halt it?
Now, I know this isn't part of the family, but somebody messaged this to me today, and they said, would you have thought that like this new bloodline was a bigger deal if Samoa Joe snuck in and became the leader? And it was tough because it's like, I know he's not part of the family, but like he's a bigger name than, let's say, someone like Solo. I don't know. I'm not going to say I'm the biggest Samoa Joe fan because I'm not, but like I'm just curious from anybody else's perspective. If he came out afterwards and as like the new chief, would you have popped for that, or would you
have to have the face tattoo would have to be back?
I'd be disappointed for sure because I think this story only works if they're using like legitimate family members from that.
I agree.
If not, that goes to like that Von Erich lore where they just start making fake Von Erichs or whatever. Like
Jimmy Jack Fatu.
He's a long cousin. Yeah.
Well, I thought of one more thing I wanted to mention about the match itself, though. And when I was talking about earlier, like I love when they bring in like references to the old school guys, and they mentioned Terry Funk in this match because of like this like kind of a side moonsault that Cody did, and I can't remember if it was Pat or Corey Graves, one of those guys.
It was Graves.
Was it? Okay. He made this comment about that being like kind of like Terry Funk. I was like, oh man, Cody's going to hear that and be like, oh, I got to do that same moonsault in every match now because
he did have a sideways moonsault. That little, my uncle and I used to call it the funky salt because it was always like a weird. It was like a weird.
It almost
turns into like a
cartwheel in the air or something.
Yeah, he did that off that ladder at that first ECW pay-per-view, barely legal. On
I remember that. Yeah,
Raven, I think, or Stevie Richards, or somebody. I can't remember.
Well, here's what's interesting too: is we got Arn in the back now. Tully's available, and Flair's available now. So who the hell knows?
Touching Flair? They're not touching Flair.
You don't Triple H in charge. You don't think he's gonna do it?
I don't know, man. I think Triple H is going to look at it as a business thing, and he's going to be like, "This is not best for business." I think to bring in Flair at this time.
I wouldn't touch Flair at all. Jeez. Oh my God.
What about Jake? The AEW still has Jake, right?
Fuck Jake Roberts. That dude's a prick. I can't stand it.
Not a big Jake guy.
Jake is not a nice guy at conventions, right, Crater?
No, not at
No,
all.
he's no Piper. I'll tell you that.
Roman Reigns came back, though. I mean, I think that as far as the show goes, we're probably not going to see Roman on a SmackDown show for at least another couple weeks, maybe a month. So they're
You
going to
don't
do
think
the
he's on
slow
Raw
build.
tomorrow though?
I don't think so. No, tomorrow's no.
On Sunday.
They're all. Oh, I love Saturday shows, by the way. I really do. I really do, because it makes you
I
feel
like
good
them.
when all of a sudden you're like, "Oh, tomorrow I'm off, sweet." You know?
I do. I appreciate the fact that these shows are on Saturday now.
Yeah,
Um,
me too. For sure.
But yeah, that slow build. I mean, it sucks about Jacob Fatu, but I don't think that affects the Survivor Series match either way. They can get somebody else in there. They'll find a.
They definitely could. I just hate it because the guy's super talented and he literally just started in the company. It's not like how Punk came back, and initially right off the bat he got injured. But because Punk has had his stories told and his experience with WWE in the past. I mean, this for Jacob Fatu, a guy that has never, experienced that within WWE, and he gets shot straight to the main storyline of the entire show. I mean, I can't. That sucks. I really hate that for that dude.
Yeah, it's really bad. I mean, I was totally looking forward to Survivor Series because I could see that match in my head already. It's going to be a whole lot of stuff. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's I guess, 3 months to go before Survivor Series?
Mhm.
So we'll see what happens. Hopefully it's not too serious.
Yeah, I'm hoping not.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible he could be back by then. Who knows? But
Yeah. I mean, but all in all, I actually thought tonight was a fantastic SummerSlam. It was one
I
that,
enjoyed it.
like
Yeah,
we talked about, out of all these matches, Nia and Bailey was the weakest, but all the other ones were really, really strong.
Yeah, they were solid. I love them.
And there wasn't that many, surprisingly. There wasn't like there was 20 matches. Like in my head, what was there, like 6?
I think it was like
something.
6 or 7.
6 or 7.
So I mean, I think that was a good number, and every match had a nice feel to it because, like we said, the stories have been great, and I hope that they just continue on this route because it really does make things seem special. And I think tomorrow with the bloodlines and with the Judgment Day stuff alone, it makes Monday. It makes Raw. It makes Raw more must see because you're kind of like, okay, where is this going? Rhea's pissed, Priest is pissed, Dominic's got Liv. Was Balor behind this whole thing the whole time? And is he the mastermind with Liv? I mean, who knows, right? There's so many directions that this can go now.
It was Balor that took the hotel room card during that one Raw, if you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I remember.
I think he's
And,
set that whole thing up. Yeah.
There was another moment that I noticed where like she trashed the room, Liv Morgan on Raw, but she didn't she spray painted over everybody's face but Balor. And I was like, like WWE always does those little subtle things.
That's
they
do that a lot here lately, where the little things in the background and stuff. They've been focusing on that a lot as part of their stories. So I didn't see that when you're talking about. I need to go back. Do you remember? Was that like this past Raw?
I think that was the most recent Raw where Liv got her revenge on their clubhouse or something.
Yeah, I love
some Easter eggs there.
But
I told you guys. I told you. I knew that. I knew it.
Oh, is it already on there?
It's going to be at least 6 to 8 months before she cashes that thing in.
Yeah. And there was something else that they were a couple weeks ago, or maybe close to a month ago. Trish Stratus was on WWE. I can't remember if it was on Raw or where it was at, but she had like an interaction with Tiffany Stratton, and I thought they were like leading to a match between those two at SummerSlam, but I guess that just didn't happen. I don't know what happened. Do you think that's something that's going to happen?
I think that we can see something with them too. I think Trish can still go. I think.
Yeah, I mean,
she reminds me a lot of her. Because
I think that's where they got her name too, if I'm not mistaken, because like Stratton, Stratus. And both their names start with a T. And I think they're kind of like going with her as to be the next Trish. I think they were initially going to do that with Mandy Rose before everything that happened with her. But I think now Tiffany Stratton is the girl they're going with as like kind of the new Trish. But as far as like this show, like overall, like I feel like this is the best pay-per-view or premium live event, whatever you want to call it now. that I've seen in a while. I enjoyed this show more than I enjoyed WrestleMania 40. And like I said, the match of the night for me was Punk and McIntyre. I thought it was awesome how that whole thing is developed, because almost out of accident, really, because he got injured at the Rumble, and the guy that injured him was Drew McIntyre. We didn't really, but it was part of the story, like it was because Drew just happened to be at the wrong place at the wrong time when it came to Punk getting injured. But it's just awesome how they have turned that into what it is now. And just so many things about the show. I mean, and I'm not ashamed to say it, but there was times I got a little bit emotional just because it kind of gave me a reminder of like a lot of the things they were doing tonight was the reason why I fell in love with wrestling in the first place. And I'm like, if I hope to God that they keep going this route, they keep doing the same stuff, because like I really not, I've been a wrestling fan for like 30 some years now, 33, 34 years. But, I have not felt like where I'm involved with the product as much as I am now. I've not felt that way in a long time. And if you have a passion for wrestling, you understand what I'm saying, then like you totally get it.
I agree. I think we are in a great place right now. Does it have to do with Triple H and Rock kind of being where they are? Possibly. I think wrestling's in a place where it's just going to keep getting bigger. So I'm excited to see where this goes. And like we said before, when it hits Netflix, that's even going to be a bigger change. We don't know what's going to happen there, but it's good to see that they're developing more characters like a TV show would be, where everybody's got a place and it's people to be invested in. When you got these people that are just trading win-loss records every week for 2 years, it's hard to get invested in somebody, because all you see him is you'll win one week, lose the other, and then nobody feels important anymore. So then when you had like a Dolph Ziggler get a title shot, it's like, I don't know, this is kind of throwaway, because there was no build. At least back in the 80s, it could be the weirdest match in the main event, but everybody just fought jobbers for like weeks on and weeks on, that everybody kind of felt at the same level. So it could have been like Hacksaw versus Tugboat or versus Repo Man, but all you've done is seen these dudes win every week versus these jobbers, that it was hard to really tell who was better than who, right? So, that's what made the 80s beautiful, was that these wrestlers all felt important because they weren't facing other big name wrestlers on a regular basis. So it's cool to just see that everybody's got a story, and it's cool to just see that these characters are now becoming characters no matter where they fall on the card, which then that makes them over. I mean, we still get the Wyatt Six tomorrow. We didn't get them tonight. We got Chad Gable's new group tomorrow. Like, this is all interesting shit that weren't even on the card tonight.
Well, I mean,
tomorrow, Monday.
And that's
Monday Night Raw. It's all right.
That stuff is going to be interesting for sure. And I feel like, as good as things are right now with the product, I feel like it has potential to be even better, and possibly one of the best eras that we've ever seen in WWE. I think next year is going to be a big game changer for a lot of stuff with Netflix. I think with it being Cena's last run, and they're saying that he's going to do at least like 60 dates next year. I think we're going to see a lot of nostalgic stuff with Cena. It's going to bring back a lot of fans, I think, that haven't watched in a while, that were big Cena fans, to try to get them to, sell tickets to the shows and stuff that he's going to be at. I'm excited.
Rocky will be back once they hit Netflix. You'll see more Rock on there, and I just think at this point, it's like, I just hope everybody stays healthy.
It's an interesting.
Everybody's important right now. Yeah. So like, we need Punk when they get there. We can't have him on the shelf. Like Rollins too. He ain't getting any younger. He's beat up. Like, these guys need to stay healthy, because I'm sure they're going to be important parts of the show, going forward.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And
cool. Well, guys, hey, we appreciate everybody staying. Hell, it's past 1:30 in the morning. We're just way past my bedtime.
Holy man!
But
wow, I didn't know it was that late.
Garrett, what do you got coming up on the Born to Be Rad channel, man?
I just dropped this morning 15 of the best horror anthologies. So the Halloween season is creeping up. You're already seeing Spirit Halloween's opening. So everybody's going to start making their Halloween watch lists. And I think anthologies really do feel very Halloween time, fall-ish. So if you're looking to kind of dig your teeth into some that maybe you haven't watched in a while, or you haven't watched at all, go check out that 15 of the best anthology movies video that I just dropped. And
hell yeah, man. I'll check that.
yeah, check that out. And there's other ones I did. I did a whole retrospective on how important Kevin Bacon was to the horror genre. I'm going to be doing a new series called Horror Icons, where we kind of take these big name actors that had or actresses that had a lot of work in horror that maybe just get overlooked. Like right now, I'm thinking in my head, I'm going to do an episode on Josh Hartnett now with this new movie coming out. Because when you look at his library, you're like, holy shit, like that dude has done a ton of horror stuff.
Yeah, the Faculty is one of my favorite movies
right?
ever.
H2O, Faculty. There was another one too that he did as well early on.
I mean, even his role on the show Penny Dreadful was
30 Days a Night he was in. 30 Days a Night.
Yeah,
Right?
that's
So, like,
it.
and now he's in this new movie.
That
Trapped,
was a huge
so,
movie. Yeah, that was a big hit when it came out. Yeah.
30 Days a Night
So we're going to
killer.
talk about him, and then Nick Cage is another one that we were going to do because again he's done a lot of
Yeah,
horror
I was just
stuff.
talking about him with my wife recently. Like, it's so crazy to see what kind, like he's reemerged and he's like being very like close to the horror genre. I think that maybe that started with Mandy. I'm not sure, but like it just seems like he's in a lot more horror stuff than anything else that he's doing right now. And I know Nicolas Cage has kind of become a meme over the years and stuff with people, but I'm really enjoying the guy's recent work a lot. I mean, I think he's great.
Well, there's a lot to watch. He's done quite a bit.
And that's the thing. He's done so much. But yeah, it's a little series that I started that's kind of talking about some of these underappreciated actors that, when it comes to big name actors, you look at Jamie Lee Curtis, she shied away from horror for a long time. She only really, I mean, if the money wasn't right, I don't know if she would ever came back to the franchise, but a lot of these actors never really turned their back on horror. They've been doing it the whole time, but they're not ever, talked about as, big names in the genre.
I think when Jamie Lee came back, she needed Halloween more than Halloween needed her.
And
I agree.
I think her career was like at that point.
it's funny how related like horror and wrestling can be. Because if you look at it, if you're a wrestling fan and someone that you really enjoyed, years ago or when you're younger, and when they come back or make an appearance on Raw or pay-per-view or whatever, there's always this, big pop and there's always excitement from all the fans of nostalgia. And it's like that in movies. It's the same thing with like Jamie Lee Curtis coming back to the Halloween series after nobody even
Twice. She came back twice.
Yeah. I mean, nobody ever saw her coming back for the last trilogy that they put out. But I mean, when she did, it was like, it was news everywhere. Like people that hadn't really dealt with like horror films in a while because they were kind of, not happy with the route some horror movies were going, and they weren't as interesting to them. They didn't appeal to them, but they knew Jamie Lee Curtis, and they're like, "Oh wow, well I gotta go watch that new Halloween movie because Jamie Lee's in it." So, like I said, it's weird to me sometimes how parallel wrestling and the film industry can be.
For real.
What do you got coming up, Mark? You filming some stuff this weekend, right?
Yeah, I got a ton of footage on my phone from the con, so I'll be putting like a compilation of the best stuff that I saw, like in a video, and then I got a ton of stuff on the table behind me that I bought. I spent way too much money this weekend.
That's
what it's easy to do at those horror conventions because everything's fucking $80, $90 an autograph or whatever anymore.
Oh Lord.
Yeah, it's it's pretty
Horror
rough.
Hounds next month, and I'm sure I'm going to spend a friggin' ton of money at Horror Hounds. So
it's a tough one to do.
Crater, you got anything you wanted to promote on here? I know you've been
promote people give me some money for my friggin' water bill.
I heard about that, man.
What
Oh, dude, it's a long story, but I'll give you the Cliff Notes version. We got our water turned off from the city, and it's been turned off since June the 27th. The city showed up and turned off our water, and I said, "Why are you turning my water off?" And the guy said, "Well, it looks like you have over a 600-gallon leak." Could not figure out where the hell this guy. If it was inside my house, we would have already been like drowning in my house. But they sent me a bill, and it was like almost $6,000. And so like we went up to City Hall to take care of it, and they said they would adjust it by taking 40% off, which is still a ton. They said I could make payments on it. I was like, okay, I guess I'll just have to deal with this. Got another bill today. Like I said, my water has been turned off since June 27th. They sent another bill and tacked on an additional $6,000, $6,110, something like that. So my current balance is at almost $12,000 right now, and I have no idea why. So I'm trying to figure that.
And they're not trying to help you figure it out either.
They're not. They're being very.
It's like tough
rude
shit,
about it.
pal.
Yeah.
Vince McMahon's working for the water
I've
company.
been told to do a couple, take a few steps here and there. I'll get into that next week. But yeah, it's rough right now.
So what's
Sorry
going
to
on?
hear that, man.
Yeah, that's insane, man. Gee, I mean, you don't really realize how bad it is not to have water until you don't have water.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I was telling that same thing to Wes. I was like, you don't realize how bad it could be until you're without it, because you essentially need it for like so much in your daily routines.
Yeah.
And so we just luckily my wife's mom just lives right down the road, and we've been buying those big jugs of like Hawaiian punch at Walmart, which we like drinking that stuff anyway. So we've been saving the jugs, going down to her mom's and filling those with water to bring back to our house.
Has anybody said anything to you for bathing in the lake down the street, or what? Bringing the soap in there and just bathing out the lake?
I mean, you could, but I mean, that's I'm like Howie Mandel. I'm kind of
that wouldn't work for you. Is that what you're saying?
Nah, man, I don't think I could do that.
We don't have any water. You got to take what a lot of old people call the whore bath. You know what that is, Craig?
That's what it's been like when I've been trying to do. We have to go down to her mom's, and we've been taking what they call whore baths, but it's gotta
You're
do
just jumping in
something,
people's
man.
pools, jumping in, jumping out.
I gotta do something. Thankfully, I work from home. So
I hope they figure something out with that, because that would just my anxiety. I don't know if I could even deal with that.
Yeah. Well, I won't get into that right now.
So, all right. So, as far as the Dead Pit channel goes, we got a big show coming up on Thursday, 10,000 subscriber show. We're going to be doing some fun stuff for that. And Uncle Bill's going to be returning. He went on location, Tybee Island, Georgia, to take some shots of the Slayer filming locations, photos. He didn't even know it, but it was filmed there. So I guess that is it. Other reviews and stuff's coming up. Slasher shows coming back next week. So, but yeah, we appreciate everybody tuning in. It's been a fun show. Good getting you guys on here. And I want to throw this out there because I've been wanting to do this since we came back. It's a busy time in October, so there's no promises, but I want to try Halloween Havoc 91 Chamber of Horrors.
Oh,
man.
Finally freaking do it, man, in October sometime. We got to find the time to do it. Yeah, that's my favorite bad, great pay-per-view.
is that the same one where Tony Schiavone's dressed like Dracula?
Yep.
Yeah, Tony Schiavone.
The Halloween Phantom. It's the Halloween Phantom.
Eric Bischoff was Dracula as well.
Bischoff is Dracula. Yeah.
Tony Schiavone was Dracula at some point, but it might
Was
not
it like
be
a
that
commercial or something that Schiavone was Dracula?
It was the
for?
beginning of Halloween Havoc 93, I think.
93. Okay.
The trick-or-treaters were coming to Schiavone's house.
That's it. That's what I was talking about.
All right, guys. But yeah, we appreciate everybody tuning in. Check out Stuntman Mark on YouTube, Born to Be Rad on YouTube, Dead Pit on YouTube. At some point, it's going to be Crater Time on YouTube. I'm sure.
Yeah, working on that. Want to get my
Start
water
channel.
back first, though.
I don't blame you. I don't blame you one bit. But yeah, we appreciate it, guys. Everybody have a good night, and we will catch you all next go around. Give us the thumbs up.
Off you butt.
Like, subscribe. And if you subscribe, here's something else you can do. Once you subscribe, you can click the bell notification, right? And it'll notify you anytime that Dead Pit puts up new shit.
Or don't. I really don't give a fuck.
I want you to. I want you to.
I don't care.
Let's keep our community growing here on YouTube.
I don't like it. I don't want you to do nothing. Listen, they need to do that, pal.
No, don't you dare touch it.
Thumbs up. Subscribe. And click that bell.
There's all kinds of wonderful shirts over at shop.deadpit.com. Simply the best horror shirts. On TeePublic, there are others, but they all suck. You can get some Dead Pit radio shirts. You can get Last South on the left. The Hills Have Eyes. Texas Chainsaw. Oh, wait, you can't say Texas Chainsaw. All kinds of shirts, folks. You're gonna love them. Shop.deadpit.com.
Thank you to all of our supporters on Patreon. Dead Pit on Patreon.com is the only place to check out a complete archive of the old Dead Pit radio shows all the way back from 2005 on, in addition to the midweek shows, fan commentaries, exclusive podcasts, and much more. Dead Pit on Patreon.com if you're interested. Tiers start at only $1.